rise up when it's drop is. Yeah. My God. Yeah. I feel like king of the hill when I'm king of the hill. My God. Yeah, yeah. It feels like murder, murder. Setting them alight when I lit that flame. Try pulling up side by side for the race, just realize that we're in a different lane. Yeah, see I'm out here killing the game. How can you claim that we're living the same? See in reality we ain't on a similar stage. You're sitting in the crib while I'm singing my name. That flames, whole of the city on lock. The coldest flows and the cream of the crop. We've them bees with a lean and a bop. Got a phone line ringing to the heat don't stop. I feel like king of the hill when they're never gonna take my crown. That's the type of my sound. Better rise up when I shut this down. I feel like king of the hill when they're never gonna take my crown. That's the type of my sound. Better rise up when I shut this. Yeah. My God. Yeah. I feel like king of the hill when I'm king of the hill. My God. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You take me to a place unknown. I wonder if I'll ever go. My thoughts just won't leave me alone. Give me the strength to carry on. I wanna show you love. I wanna feel your touch. I want it all, but I keep running away, running away. I wanna show you love. I want it all too much. I wish I could, but I just can't. I can't get over love. I can't get over love. I wanna show you love. I wanna feel your touch. I want it all, but I keep running away, running away. I wanna show you love. I want it all too much. I wish I could, but I just can't. I can't get over love. I can't get over love. I wanna show you love. I wanna feel your touch. I want it all, but I keep running away, running away. I wanna show you love. I want it all too much. I wish I could, but I just can't. I can't get over love. I can't get over love. I can't get over love.
5. Stay until the morning, then I carry on and live my hollow life. Did you really take my soul? Came and then you left a hole. Shot me in the late night, bleeding out in plain sight, running with the heart you stole. You got your desires, always starting fires. Losing sleep, I'm in too deep, I'm hiding Michael Myers. Building an empire, you were rising higher. Standing tall, but you will fall, cause we all hear the choir. Beautiful lust, dragging me under the table. Hell in her eyes, she wants to put me in a hole. Beautiful liar, holding me, I'm a neighbor. Bleeding me dry, she wants to devour my soul.
Fuck.
Stab me in the back. Now I'm bleeding slowly. Pray to God I'm holy. Bury me still intact. Baby, don't make a noise. Murdering brings you joy. I've been waiting for you, ready to destroy you. Sipping on the cold liqueur. You got your desires, always starting fires. Losing sleep, I'm in too deep. I'm hiding Michael Myers. Building an empire. You were rising higher. Standing tall, but you will fall, cause we all hear the choir. Beautiful lust, dragging me under the table. Hell in her eyes, she wants to put me in a hole. Beautiful liar, holding me, I'm a neighbor. Bleeding me dry, she wants to devour my soul.
Fuck.
This life will carry on. I'll stay until you leave me drowning. I've slayed a couple demons in my day. You don't know I can't be swayed. Oh no. Beautiful lust, dragging me under the table. Hell in her eyes, she wants to put me in a hole. Beautiful liar, holding me, I'm a neighbor. Bleeding me dry, she wants to devour my soul.
Fuck.
Pulled up to the set when I heard that brutal sound of the bass. Start to feel like I'm dreaming, man, should have seen that look on my face. But I'm so low-key, I'm an anonymous G that I left no trace. But when I step one foot in the room, I'ma set this pace. I feel like king of the hill when they're never gonna take my crown. That's the type of my sound, better rise up when I shut this down. I feel like king of the hill when they're never gonna take my crown. That's the type of my sound, better rise up when I shut this down. Yeah. My God. Yeah. I feel like king of the hill when they're king of the hill. It feels like murder, murder. Setting them alight when I lit that flame. Try pulling up side by side for the race, just realize that we're in a different lane. Yeah, see I'm out here killing the game. How can you claim that we're living the same? See in reality being on a similar stage. You're sitting in the crib while I'm singing my name. That's flames, whole of the city on lock. The coldest flows and the cream of the crop. We've them bees with a lean and a bop. Got a phone line ringing to the heat don't stop. I feel like king of the hill when they're never gonna take my crown. That's the type of my sound. Better rise up when I shut this down. I feel like king of the hill when they're never gonna take my crown. That's the type of my sound. Better rise up when I shut this. Yeah.
My God.
Yeah. I feel like king of the hill when they're king of the hill.
My God.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You take me to a place unknown. I wonder if I'll ever go. My thoughts just won't leave me alone. Give me the strength to carry on. I wanna show you love. I wanna feel your touch. I want it all, but I keep running away, running away. I wanna show you love. I want it all too much. I wish I could, but I just can't. I can't get over love. I can't get over love. I wanna show you love. I wanna feel your touch. I want it all, but I keep running away, running away. I wanna show you love. I want it all too much. I wish I could, but I just can't. I can't get over love. I can't get over love. I wanna show you love. I wanna feel your touch. I want it all, but I keep running away, running away. I wanna show you love. I want it all too much. I wish I could, but I just can't. I can't get over love. I can't get over love.
Vini Júnior, essa é sua última chance de fazer parte da nossa seleção do ano.
Todo mundo tem uma seleção. Escolhe a sua.
Voting is now live at ea.com/TOTY.
Incisive pass, Vinicius Junior, and on to Bellingham.
Red Bull gives you wings.
जिंदगी के रेस में कोशिशें तो बहुत होती है, लेकिन कोशिशों के आगे सफलता कदम उसी के चूमती है जो एक और बार बोल के कोशिशें अपनी ना रुके। लेडीज एंड जेंटलमैन, आप सभी का स्वागत है LG Ultra Gear presents Skyesports Grandslam 2024 पावर्ड बाय AMD के आखिरी दिन में, जहां हमें मिलने वाले हमारे चैंपियन इस साल के ग्रैंड स्लैम का। मेरा नाम कैप्टन प्राइस, मेरे साथ जुड़ते हुए आज स्टेज पे फिर से सैम।
It's the much awaited, most anticipated and excited day of all, क्योंकि आज के दिन हमें मिलेगा एक नेशनल स्टेज पे इंटरनेशनल टीम्स की लड़ाई एंड उसके साथ एक ट्रॉफी. One of these teams is going to walk away. Now Indonesia, yes, they had a good run, but yesterday they got defeated by the Kangaroos. Today Kangaroos are on the hunt. जिसके साथ लोअर ब्रैकेट फाइनल लड़ने वाले हैं, that is going to be the gods. But story line यहाँ पे देखिए कैप्टन, both these teams, right, have been defeated by the same one team, Aurora, जो अभी हमारे ग्रैंड फाइनल्स में देखने के लिए मौका मिल रहा है. But who will that team be who will take the revenge against them?
I think that is the best part of today, कि आज के दिन पे दोनों मुकाबले एक रिवेंज की ओर बढ़ सकते हैं. बट फिलहाल के लिए I think it's time that we call upon stage the first team who are going to play in the lower bracket finals. Please welcome, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the Bad News Kangaroos. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Please head back to your stations. But the challengers or the contenders, what do we call them?
I think that at this point it's not a challenger or a contender. It's about taking up the stage and owning it. I think that's what everybody is trying to do, as Kangaroos have stepped up, right? One end we have the beasts, but on the other end, they are the ones who've descended from up above. Please welcome and put your hands together for God's Reign!
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Well, except Bhavi, every one of you can go back and head over to your stations. But Bhavi, I have to ask you to stay back. And of course, I want the IGL. I would request the IGL from Bad News Kangaroos, Brace, to quickly come over. Okay. Now, I'm going to choose Bhavi. Now, since you've gone with Brace here, so why don't you give him the mic? I have a few questions lined up for him. So first of all, Brace, again, if you win this match, you face off against your rivals, your nemesis, basically. Yeah. You were taken down by them. So what are the preparations for the next game? I'm not going to ask you what you have prepared against them, but what do you have preparations for the finals if you make it up there?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we look back at a lot of our mistakes and the little issues we made, so just going to try to play a better game today. But again, we've played a lot of tournaments where we had to play 2 games in one day, and a lot of it's about getting a clean win on the first game or bringing some momentum over to the next series. So whoever wins, it's really important you don't get fucking burnt out.
How confident are you that you're going to just walk over them?
We're pretty confident. We kind of have to be confident, right? Like, we're going to lose if we're scared. So, but yeah, I think it'll be an awesome experience for them. Like, being able to play in front of your home country, your home crowd, it's really cool. So it'll be a fun game.
Yeah, of course, it'll be a fun game. Now, I'll give the mic to Bhavi. I'm pretty sure Sam has some questions for you.
I think more than them, right, it's a little bit of, I don't know how you're feeling it on the stage, but I'm pretty sure it's a lot of matter of dignity and also a lot of viewers looking at you as the home ground heroes. Is that a big thing to take around on your shoulders, or are you going to take it as a game?
No, I think we just take game by game. It's just another game. We don't take crowd pressure. You know, we've been here in this situation so many times, so yeah, it's normal for us.
Okay, so also that as Captain asked, right, you've been defeated by the same team that's Aurora, and I'm pretty sure, as we said, that is the one team that everybody's trying to defeat. But you saw them also going against them. So have you figured out a way through the Kangaroos, or are they going to be punching back?
Yeah, I mean, we saw them play a couple of games, and the goal is simple, just to do better than yesterday.
I'll wish you all the best. You both can fist bump and get to your seats and get up, because this is the lower bracket finals of the Skyesports Grandslam. These two teams are going to fight it their all, and one is going to reign superior. Where it's God's reign, are the Kangaroos who are ready to punch?
Well, let me just hear it from the crowd once again. Audience, are you ready? That's more like it. Well, without any further ado, we're going to directly move on to our casters who are ready with this wonderful game. And trust me, it's going to be mayhem. Casters, please take it away.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Yes, it is time for the final day of the Skyesports Grand Slam. Lots of action with two best-of-threes that will decide who lifts the one trophy of our three teams remaining. I'm the Eternal J. I'm joined by Dwayne for the English stream in today's proceedings. And look, we've had a number of great moments over the course of the last couple of days. Not many surprises, I wouldn't say, in terms of who we're seeing in our positions in the bracket. But this one certainly is our dream match, Dwayne. This is the one that we were focused on the most, saying that this is the one we want to watch.
And the first couple of days of action, we've had some blowouts, right? We've had some one-sided games. This should, on paper, be the most competitive game out of the entire tournament. This is two teams in the local scene that are looking to try and prove themselves to be the number one. And for the Indian squad here of God's Reign, being able to get an upset against an international team on land to get into a grand final would be really history in the making for them.
Indeed, yes, they proved themselves all the way through that Indian qualifier, but couldn't prove themselves against Aurora yesterday. But similar story, of course, for the Kangaroos, right? They took on Aurora during that upper bracket opening match, and they also fell down. Both matches were 2-0, not a single map gain for the underdogs in that context. But of all the underdogs we had in this tournament, these were the two key dark horses. And I guess a traditional sort of Australian and Indian rivalry, right? Like I saw on Twitter, Taffy was posting, this will be the preview for the test match later on this year. So I'm curious to find out how this is going to play out in our first match of the day. Again, a lot of pride on the line, especially with the God's Reign side still rocking that home crowd advantage, but yet to gain a significant result so far in this tournament.
Well, Brace was kind of talking about it, the idea that you've got to try and play back-to-back best-of-threes. You've got to try and see if you can get yourself closer towards that first-place position. At least securing the second place gets you that extra cash injection. But for both of these teams, they know to themselves that if we can just beat one another, we've at least got a chance of trying to upset Aurora.
Yeah, back-to-back matches are never easy on land, especially when they're best of threes. But, of course, it can be worth it if you can take that top place of the $50,000 prize pool we have on display for this last week or so. Of course, also looking at those MVP and MVL and, of course, rookie rewards for the best of the best individual players as well. Obviously, we've been looking at the top fraggers and how Deco's been leading the charge. But you've also got players like Addict not too far behind him. So good performances from the Kangaroos today could lead him to contesting that top spot.
You've got to imagine that Addict's getting closer and closer to that rookie prize. I mean, just knowing that this is his second international LAN, and he's impressed us in basically every single map that he's played. Always been on the money when it comes to pure impact, always been in a position, especially in that opening game against Aurora, of trying to close rounds down. That first half is still etched in my memory of what happened out on Overpass.
And we'll see whether or not they can replicate performances here against the God's Reign side. Of course, as we mentioned before, there are two best-of-threes today, plus also the Lunar Show match, so plenty of Counter-Strike action to show you over the course of our final day of proceedings, but it all starts with our key and important grudge match. Again, God's Reign and Bad News Kangaroos in the lower bracket, so this will be both teams' last chance to make it to the grand finals.
And we've only seen I want to say, one map that's been competitive so far this tournament, and that's that opening map of the opening game between the Bad News Kangaroos and Aurora. I think the Aussies can reflect back on that game in hindsight and say we should have closed it. We should have at least been able to send that to a third map decider. Wasn't to be. Now they've got a chance to try and rectify that, and now going up against God's Reign, this on paper should be the one to watch.
Indeed, yeah, like we've got both the underdogs and both the key dark horses that have been able to take their licks over the favourites, particularly the Bad News Kangaroos, as you mentioned, probably having the better result over the Aurora Gaming side coming into this tournament.
Yeah, there's no denying that, right? I think we saw from God's Reign in yesterday's matchup in that upper bracket final, they were out of touch. They were completely outclassed by Aurora, and it didn't even look like they could challenge. At least for the Aussies, the opening game was quite close. The second map of Inferno, while they only scored 4 rounds, it showed that they were working some decent defaults. They were at least contesting the majority of rounds in that first half. So if we use that chain logic, if we use that continuous thought, I want to say right here for the Aussies, if you get off to a good showing, then you get a chance of trying to rematch. Go up against Aurora again.
Yeah, and I think that honestly that is the most likely outcome. These guys have been very proficient. We've talked up the likes of Addict in terms of his star potential, but even PZ has picked up the AWP role and even been able to frag back a little bit more in terms of responding towards the opposition that they've faced. And even though they are hampered by a standing situation, I don't think your Wombat has been all that terrible for his team, right? He's been filling in the roles, he's been doing his job, and Bad News Kangaroos have been the beneficiaries of that.
Yeah, I think Mac was even talking about it, that he pugs with these guys quite a lot. Obviously, being a roommate of Brace, you're very familiar with the boys. You're getting in there. You got some good chemistry. So for your Wombat, in what is a very important LAN matchup to try and get the Aussies into a grand final, he's just got to fill in the gaps. He's just got to try and be that helping hand.
Well, on the other side of God's Reign, we have seen some impressive stuff from the likes of Finn and R2B2 when it comes to individual performances. Would have really liked to have seen R2B2 get going in that Aurora Gaming matchup, but never really saw him find the star potential that he had in that first result. So kind of looking at those two individuals as being the guys that can really frag back here for God's Reign. We mentioned, of course, the stand-in situation there for Bad News Kangaroos. Remember, it's a stand-in for them. It's 3 brand new players for God's Reign.
And the more that we get into this conversation, right, of comparing players of games that we've seen, I think you have to compare both of the games against Aurora. I don't think you can compare those games against the Indonesians because it wasn't parallels. We weren't seeing those same players that performed in the Aurora perform in the other game. Now, for me, for God's Reign, Finn was the only player delivering impact. I actually thought he had some really good rounds out on Ancient, came down to a couple of close clutch situations too, and even out Mirage, while it was very unsuccessful, he was at least one of the casualties that was trying to bring something to the table.
Well, we won't be seeing Mirage in our best of 3 here in the first match of the day. It's a Nuke, Anubis, and Inferno. Nuke picked out by the Kangaroos, Anubis picked in by God's Reign. I guess the God's Reign is certainly encouraged by the dominant scoreline they had against the GRDX in their opening matchup. But look, in terms of the map vetoes, like, is there any key strengths involved here for the Indians?
Well, Nuke is probably not a strength. Now, that's normally an insta-ban. In both of their games that they played in the Dust 2 India Masters, they were banning Nuke as their perma. We also saw that in the Aurora series. So, across the board, they don't play Nuke. So this is the Bad News Kangaroos trying to get into a bit of a punish pick. Trying to get into Nuke, a map that has not been played all that often. It got played a couple of times in the Indian qualifier for God's Reign, but not on HLTV. So Nuke's coming in as a punish. Anubis, I actually want to say, is a fairly okay map as well for the Aussies. They play quite a lot of it locally, and they actually were the result that got them into Pro League in that qualification was a 13-5 against Rooster on that map of Anubis.
And the idea as well, you got Nuke that, I mean, it's not very frequently played on HLTV for the Kangaroos, but you have got the 13-11 result against Greyhound during the Chengdu Aussie qualifier. So you've got those results again against those top-end competitions within their divisional region, right? And I have to say that it does feel like right now the map pools of these two teams are definitely based within their particular divisions and within their, like, you know, local regions and such. So you have to compare the pair in terms of how strong those scenes are. But in terms of like how strong these two teams are, again, you look at how that Aurora series went down between both Kangaroos and God's Reign. I do feel like that Kangaroos had their had a lot more proficiency behind them. So the idea that they've got this punish pick against the likes of God's Reign, they've got a second solid map involved in this series. It does feel like they have a serious leg up here in this match.
And I want to say that mental's going to be very important for God's Reign. We certainly saw against the Aurora side, there was a lot of frustration, right? There was a lot, I don't know if arguments is maybe the way to go, but maybe passionate words that they were not happy with how things went down, that they were not satisfied with their performance. And why would you? 6 rounds on map 1 and 0 rounds on map 2. They got pumped. They've got to make sure that their mental's in check and that everything they've been working for the last month to make these roster changes is for the better, that they can make it into the grand final.
I mean, credit for having the right mentality is certainly to their favour, but as you mentioned before, frustration might become a hindrance if they let it get too far, especially against the bad news Kangaroos. So let's see how far they will go. CT side start of Nuke for God's Reign. Dwayne, your predictions in this match?
2-0 the Aussies for me.
All right, no bias there. I'm going to go 2-0 as well. God's Reign may have their final matchup in the tournament. They look to do battle in the lower bracket finals against the bad news Kangaroos. Pistol on map 1 has gone live. Finn playing the outside control. Very careful approach from the Aussies.
A util for a drop there into the vents, but quick out from main and into main with a flashbang. Opening kill for Addict, trying to make it 2. And here comes Addict showing up what he can. 3 kills already from Addict in the pistol.
2 trades back from Revan and R2B2, but R2B2 is all that remains as Haz is able to find his responsive, and now he needs a full-blown 4K to clutch this round. Plant is being secured. And the T side adjusting against the only 2 entries that R2B2 can realistically take. He's prodding into the bomb site now, trying to find an angle in the back, and does catch Hazza with a straight headshot in the back lines. Check out Hut, see nothing. Shots coming in from the site itself, did spot that player. Looks back in, sees the shoulder, trying to play around his position, but they're playing Ring of Roses all the same. Tap that bomb, look for the fight, do tons of damage, but not get away with the casualty. Addict with a quadra of his own to open up the round. Pistol gained by BNK.
You could look at the entire setup and say they were caught off guard. You've got the door HE being blown open. You've got a vent dive smoke as well, but it's actually just deception. They go aggressive into main. They drop down. Very well-timed flashbang. And Addict, man, he should not be able to get away with a triple entry. First kill main, second kill Hut, third towards closed vent corner. That's way too much impact. And for me, Jay, Addict and Finn, they're going to be the 2 guys to watch out for in this head-to-head.
A beautiful start from Addict already. All eyes on him making statements throughout the course their series is for the bad news Kangaroos, and harsher eco for God's Reign, seeing the Zeus coming out from Fired Up, unable to get much impact for it. Only player on that A defense, overwhelmed very quickly.
Now, God's Reign not keen on the 4 spy come this second round. Look to try and get those rifles upgrades straight away. Bad news Kangaroos go in for the upper take. And God's Reign probably throw themselves in for a couple of exits, see if they can just recover something, see if they can make it slightly expensive to the tail end of the round.
Look around the back lines. Spot individuals, take fights, but not quite win them out. Mac-10s get plenty of cash out of this. R2B2 does take 1 with him, but Brace with 3 on the SMG. Plenty of cash gained by the Kangaroos camp. The buy-ups can be received by God's Reign all the same. That's their main focus here.
And for the bad news Kangaroos, this is the perfect matchup, I want to say, Jay, where they can exploit just how much LAN experience they have at the international level against European competition and at the local level too. I mean, you got to remember the ESL Challenger events that have been going on in Melbourne over the last couple of years, the IEM Sydneys that they've had as well. We've seen that in the last couple of iterations, a lot of qualifications for these guys at the bad news Kangaroos to those events.
And they're going to have that stage backing, the ability to hold their nerve. We'll talk about mental in the pre-match, and that shouldn't be much of an issue for this Aussie side. 2-0 start doesn't indicate any issues whatsoever. Revan, however, does find an issue with Hazard's casualty. First man down of the round.
They're trying to work outside dry and not the wall of smokes. Revan starts himself off and looking to the back of T-Red now.
Shoulder just popped out, but does catch your Wombat as the aggressor's a little bit further forward. Smokes finally come in, but the CTs continue to aggress here, and Revan is trying to find these angles, trying to find these players. Nothing being spotted yet.
A position here for bad news Kangaroos that they wanted to exploit a reposition out to Garage, and just nothing presents. AWP could find that connection of Finn, just re-aggressing on the other side of that main smoke.
Recognizing the issue that the M4 might have had the advantage. Revan waiting for those smokes to clear up. No one has made their way down towards a secret yet. All the Kangaroos continue to commit towards it. If they do, they're going to have to go dry. One player does cross, timing it very well against the AWP. Second face might have to take that fight, though.
Revan with that AWP, looking to try and see if he can create even more. Finn watching out for the door walk.
Race wins that fight anyway. I think Revan let the second player cross as well. Now downstairs, Barbie's got quite a bit of pressure to try and deal with in the rafters. The mask held up, waiting for them to make their moves. 16 seconds. Molly sent indeed. He does drop PZ. Look for the double. Nicely done on Addict all the same. And hearing where Brace is at as well. 1 on 4 for the captain. Takes his fight, but ultimately loses it as God's Reign takes their first.
It just shows that Revan got a lot of impact towards outside. 2 kills with the NWP aren't answered. Yes, there's at least a position where they can get down secret. They can look to try and crunch that lower bomb site, but those 2 kills were the real difference maker. And for Revan, this could be a fantastic response after what was a fairly poor series from him against Aurora. Only averaged 7.5 kills per map in that best of 3.
Get himself geared up to really be the star of this team again. Player we're watching out for here. City side basis. Established now with their weapons. The AWP's in on Revan. AK Finn being the firepower weapon. A couple of broken buys with the Kangaroos camp. Going to go fast into the bomb site anyway. The AK trying to lead that charge. Player over at close vent. Sprays blinded. Doesn't get much out of it. Barbie's SMG though gets himself 2 kills. Tries to keep it manageable, but does go down in the end.
And try and get that molly out to the hub position and the HE down towards default. Bad news, Kangaroos with the resmoke towards heaven. This is going to make it so much more difficult for Revan.
R2B2 going to try and provide support with the automatic. Hearing those footsteps. Will he try the night bomb plant here? Doesn't look like he will, even though it is open up over at main. AKs will get recovered by the T-side players. They try and bring all those key weapons into play and hold against the defense.
No util on the retake and a resmoke down towards main. R2B2 might have to just walk in front of this. Just try and disrespect it because they're going to run out of time.
Might even just be a safe call here. He's backing off. Revan's not pressing up heaven anyway. I mean, difficult for that M4 to justify it because he's got the only kit in play on these 2 players. Exit frag attempt from Revan. He sees man, he hears him. Does take a fight on Brace and does make it expensive, but still not around for God's reign. 3 on the board of the Kangaroos.
Now, when I'm looking, Jay, at what success I've seen from the Aussies so far, the A-pops have looked good. The upper takes have looked successful with the trades. And this is something that God's reign are going to have to adapt on the fly, and probably right here, again, showing some of that level of frustration. Nuke is a difficult map to play, especially when you don't play it. So for the A players, it's all about trying to get that synergy of the timings and the crossfires and jumping the util at the right moment. This could be a constant exploitation. The A hits might be something that are common from the Aussies.
Worked them fast, worked them well. Working with a broken buy to find that next round. Of course, God's reign establishing enough economy to rebuy back into round number 5. Warp for Revan, M4s on everyone. AKs backed up by 3 Galils, and you're right. Yep, flash is sent. Molotov's deep. He's got fired up in the back to mow down 1.5 kills. Addict almost goes down himself. 20 points of HP as he swings out to provide support, try to provide covering fire for his teammates to enter and for the bomb to get planted.
A double play out from heaven. AWP out to the squeak door already.
Taking his hold, a case of when he tries to strike, coordinate with his teammates, took 1 decent shot. Bad Barbie's going to get caught by your Wombat. The Orb of Revan does strike back onto PZ. 3-on-3 situation, keeping himself at bay. R2B2 and Revan extremely low though. Need to be careful about how they continue this approach, especially as Revan goes down to Addict's part now to the man advantage of the Kangaroos camp. God's reign again might consider the save, and yep, they call it in.
Okay, this is starting to get very uneasy because I've just kind of mentioned the upper takes, and what a bad news Kangaroos do again. They upper take again. Now, what is the most uncomfortable nature, Jay, is that when you're on a city side of nuke and you're afraid of a setup, mate, they're going to throw variations of it. I actually expect the next handful of gun rounds, we're going to see some top site fakes, we're going to see some maneuvers ramp, we maybe even see the vent drop. I know that the Aussies have got loads of options of what they can do with A, and for God's reign, if they can't deal with it, they are going to be constantly exploited in this first half.
Yeah, they're going to need to figure it out. They know how quickly these matches can get out of control. They experienced it yesterday against Aurora, and momentum swing certainly something that's key in the early stages of MR12.
Well, just an idea, Jay. They lost, what, 11 out of the last 12 rounds on Ancient and then lost 13 out of 13. I mean, that in terms of a track record doesn't speak volumes to late success. It only speaks volumes to at least early success.
With 1 round aside, they haven't found early success here. Nuke been the reign of the bad news. Kangaroos continuing to put up the hurt against the CT forces who can't afford to sustain more investments here. The M4s will be all the rifle firepower they have. Not even many major pistols bought in. There is that upgrade on Barbie. Another very fast execution to come in. They try to go for the lobby crunch here on Barbie and R2B2, and they make it work for damage, but not for the kills. Revan will try and get one back, and indeed he does, but the trades are so quick from your Wombat. 4-on-2 for the Kangaroos again. The site, either one can be taken.
Well, I would say ramp crunch, really. You've got at least a player out there in Hut, but not pressing on the contact. Aggressive maneuver out from ramp with one of those M4s. Gets away with decent damage onto your Wombat, but only 1 kill at the moment.
You got Finn holding back at the double doors, does isolate your Wombat and line up some damage on the next 2, but Addict still gets away with that kill, so all those rifles being removed from the CT side. Fired Up has grabbed an AK, but not a lot of equipment to work with outside of it. Kit's in play, no Kevlar though. Just doesn't feel worth it to go for a retake and a 1-on-3. Just save the weapon into the next buy.
And realistically, Jay, we have to look at this scenario and say the only way that God's Reign can seriously pressure and threaten this first map of the series is if they probably go 7-5 at the turn of the half. And is that going to happen? Well, there's no chance. There's no way that's going to happen. So that also just adds to the conversation of how strong this T-side position really is for the Aussies.
Yeah, me and you have seen some very crazy returns from difficult scorelines, but with the way the Bad News Kangaroos are playing, it doesn't feel like it's all that likely for God's Reign here.
I mean, Addict's going into round number 6, and he's died once, and he was a guy that was entry fragging in the pistol rounds.
I mean, leaving the deaths aside, 8 kills in 6 rounds is pretty monstrous stuff, so as I said yesterday, I don't want to see more out of him, I want to see more of him, and that's what we're seeing in this map.
Well, Jay, I reckon you're going to get 2 best of 3, so your wish is going to be granted.
Yeah, mate. Again, such sick stuff from him individually, and the Bad News Kangaroos, again, continuing to hold their dominance in the lower brackets. God's Reign, again, needing to discuss things through because, I mean, it's like yesterday, Dwayne. You mentioned the body language and the discussions being had there. They're not very happy with the way things are going. They are trying to find a way into this map up, trying to find a way into this series. And if the Kangaroos have their way, then they won't let them get anything at all.
And body language is very important because I think as a competitor, right, you can obviously try and get your thoughts across and try and adapt, but you have to do it in the right way. You don't want individuals to be tilting. You don't want individuals to be getting frustrated and to get annoyed. And we certainly saw that yesterday. God's Reign need to temper themselves because this is probably one of the most difficult games that they're going to have to play in this tournament. I know, obviously, you've already played Aurora and you saw what happened there. But for them, they don't get to play many teams on LAN outside of Indian teams. So knowing that you're going up against a core 3 of players that have been together for 18 months, a core 4 of players that have been together for over a year with a lot of LAN experience, it's tough. It's a really rough draw for you.
Yeah, just back-to-back best of 3s against 2 squads that have brought the uncomfortability against the God's Reign side. And at least at the start of that Aurora Gaming matchup, they were the ones that were up 5-1, but the reverse has been switched against them. Bad News Kangaroos. Great stuff held by them. God's Reign need to find that response. And we've talked about some of those star players. Revan's at least showing up some decent skill in the server. He is top fragger of the CT board, but as we were saying yesterday against Aurora, it's not enough to hold much prominence here in this first map.
Yeah, for me, I've only seen one impressive round from Revan, and that was 2 kills outside with the AWP when Bad News Kangaroos didn't even have outside smokes. They tried to peek in dry. They tried to see if they can catch them off. It didn't work. From that point onwards, there's been a lack of success. And honestly, for God's Reign, we could probably see a lot of land from them this year. I think when you look at the entire Skyesports circuit with 6 lands up for grabs this year, with a lot of Indian qualifier spots and some of the smaller events like this one of the Grand Slam and the larger events of the Masters, we could actually see a lot of God's Reign this year. And I think that's obviously great for the Indian scene. It's going to improve a lot of the Indian teams. The issue is doing it on your first LAN of the year. It's difficult to provide results. It's difficult to get into a winning mindset very early on into the cycle.
And again, they're a name that have had a lot of success in Skyesports events in the past. Obviously, the 2 players of Finn and Revan have been part of the Masters and Souvenir lineup, and they've been together in a lot of the victories that they've taken in the Indian scene and all sorts of great domestic success. But it's that same conversation translating it to the international scene. Maybe God's Reign can have a little bit more prac involved. Maybe they can come away with some decent lessons learned after this event and then bring that back to the next one. But I think it's very telling the fact that we're only 6 rounds deep and I'm already discussing the next LAN event for the God's Reign camp. It truly has been it truly has been a dominant start from the Kangaroo side. And look, there is time to turn it around, but again, it's a case of what I've seen so far and seeing whether or not it's going to be turned around in terms of like looking at it realistically and thinking, in my eyes, answering that question of can they turn it around.
Well, one of the players, I think it was Finn, I saw in an interview last night from Dust 2 India, was actually saying that Aurora in that best of 3 versus them was playing at 20 to 30%, which I suppose is realistic to a point of view that we're only going to see Aurora at their extreme best when they're going up against high-end competition, right? When they're really being pressured and they have to adapt and they have to work off of those play styles. So they when I was reading that, it seemed like it was quite a humble response from God's Reign to sort of say, look, they're a much better team than us. We need to just do as best as we can. And even for Barbie in that pre-game interview, he just said, we want to do better than yesterday. He's not coming out here and saying, oh, we want to trash the Aussies. We want to make sure that we win 2-0 or we want to just win this series to get into the grand final. They've got to look at every map and every match as more of a chance to see more of them, to get them on LAN, to get that experience, to get that exposure and feel more comfortable playing these level of competition.
And I guess from the team's perspective, baby steps is certainly where you want to be at, like just to be better than your last match, your last head-to-head, or just your last event in general, right? And for them, like I think this has got to be like one of their first showings, certainly as a 5-man unit, their first ever LAN together on the international stage. So having that backing again, just building up your markers against squads like a Bad News Kangaroos, all important for their own part of things.
And I want to say as well, Jay, this is where you set different expectations for every team. For Aurora, their expectations in this event is to not drop a map, to beat everyone, to win the entire thing. For the Bad News Kangaroos, I want to say that with the track record they have on LAN, with the stability of this roster, their push, their goal, their expectation has to be to get to at least the grand final, to have another crack at Aurora. And then that's where for God's Reign, it's to do better than the day before. It's to be able to show that you can compete at this kind of level. And probably for the Indonesians as well, is to at least get that taste of international LAN. So that's where you have to almost temper your expectations depending on the level you play at and depending on the level of competition that's in this event.
Well, they'll take their time and take it round by round, of course. Several things in server that they have to try and figure out to make this competitive against the Bad News Kangaroos. And this could be one decent step to achieving that goal of just being better than yesterday, right? Is to try and suss out what they're doing so right on the Kangaroos camp.
I think Brace as well was kind of saying that that Mini's helping them out by just having a laugh with the lads and getting them in high spirits. Every time it seems like Mini is on the camera, he's always laughing with the boys. He's always getting them chirpy. And sometimes that's what you need. I mean, when you've got an opportunity where you don't have a coach, you can bring a coach to a LAN event. Mate, just bring someone that's going to put a smile on your face. Just bring someone that's going to give a few fist pumps. He's going to get some hype rounds in there when you do well. But overall, he just lifts the spirits.
I mean, you just saw there from their team pictures on the stage, right? Like that, I think Bad News Kangaroos is going to be the most smiley team I think I've seen in like the last 3 years of CS, right? Like they just love to like show their teeth, not in the aggressive fashion, of course, but even Brace during the interview, right? He was like, he was smiling, he was happy, he was pretty chill about it. So good spirits over there on the Kangaroos camp. And rightfully so. Again, 5-1 up in this matchup on the opening map of the series. It is, of course, their map pick. The rightful that they should be all good about this.
Now, for any of the Aussies watching as well, I remember way back in the day when Mini actually qualified with a team called Pork, when they then got picked up by Control Esports, where they went overseas to China to play in the WESG 2017 Asia Pacific LAN event. So a very long time since Mini's probably been on a stage and been in a position where he's going up against international teams, even if it is him in a coaching role this time around.
That's the kind of reference that only you would be able to bring out, Greg, I feel like.
I remember that one. I remember watching the match live. I remember when they had that qualification and made it overseas.
Yeah, well, to bring everyone an update right now onto the issues. Obviously, we are in a tech pause. I believe Revan is having some problems with his PC. You can see them over there on the God's Reign sign trying to diagnose and fix it up. And as soon as that is done, we'll get back into things. So, for God's Reign, definitely want to have someone like him getting back into proceedings and trying to deliver. All high spirits over on that side of things, and trying to contest in this matchup again. All about this opening one. Bad news, Kangaroos. Been so far so dominant, Blake.
Yeah, it's been a decent showing from them. I think consistency is what I'm going to be watching out for across this entire best of three, to actually seeing whether God's Reign can send it to that finale of that map of Inferno in the first best of three, that we could have all three maps. And for the Anubis of the God's Reign side, they've been able to win it quite a bit locally. Actually played it in the best of five in the qualification to get to this LAN event against Legacy Esports, where they had a 13-6. So showed some dominant score lines in the Indian scene. But look, that's the same conversation for God's Reign and for Bad News Kangaroos, is translating those local results to international competition. Now, we can both sit here and say that the Aussie teams have more depth and they get more qualifiers to Tier 1 events. There's no denying that. I think when you look at the majority of the circuit throughout the year, between your Rooster, your Bad News Kangaroos, and your Greyhound, you're pretty much qualifying to the majority of larger lands now. Okay, they did miss out on the major qualification through the Asia RMR, but we're only just starting to see India get more of these spots, more of these LAN matches, more of these slots in impressive tournaments. So for God's Reign, they're in a position where they're a few years behind the rest of the squad, and it means that you've got to catch up quickly.
Well, next month we will have the Skyesports Masters, where we will have some of the bigger international teams in attendance, and there is an Indian qualifier for it. So that's just one of those slots that God's Reign could potentially find themselves in, or the other Indian teams could find themselves in if they make a deep run there.
Well, they certainly should be qualifying. I mean, knowing that they qualified here where, okay, they got tested at moments in the qualifier, but even their finale game was a 3-0 in a best of five. Knowing you've now had Aurora that you've played up against, knowing that you've had Bad News Kangaroos playing up against, and a lot to review after this LAN tournament, they should be qualifying to the next Skyesports event.
Oh, I'll hold you to that when it does roll around. Obviously, for the Kangaroos, though, they are still looking at higher events of their own accord. You mentioned the fact they have missed out on some of the IEMs, but they are going to Pro League. So opportunities for them to also build up their markers. A deep run here in this event, certainly to the grand finals, and especially if they can make the matches look competitive and dominant when necessary, then would be at least a positive sign for them to go further into international basis.
Well, realistically, looking at how their opening game went against Aurora, they should have at least taken a map. The Aussies can sit there and say they should have taken overpass. Now, we know that a result in an opening game of the very first map of the tournament is going to be very difficult. To compare that to a grand final, but for the Bad News Kangaroos, they've got to be the only team in this event that say, at least we gave Aurora a crack. At least we actually challenged them.
Yeah, as you mentioned, the opening map was an 11-13 that they lost out to against Aurora's camp. So the closest result that Aurora have had to take so far in this bracket. Chance to rematch in the next round of the grand finals. Would it be all important for a team like the Kangaroos, as it would be for God's Reign to get revenge from yesterday? So let's see whether or not they can contest this one of the Indian camp. In the first quarter, however, it has been Bad News Kangaroos in full control. 5-1, in case you've missed the opening portions of this matchup. Tech issues resolved, we're ready to get back into proceedings, and it's a very fast hit. Again, it seems inside, down to the vent dive here from the bomb carrier and such. PZ waiting outside with the AWP, expecting aggression, but not going to find anything yet.
A rotation already come through from Revan with the AWP towards ramp to get down to that lower bomb site. Very quick in for the Bad News Kangaroos, and already dealing with the likes of Revan. This might just be an instant save.
PZ swings in, especially as he catches an outside player as well. Finn to drop, and no one rotating in position. The R2B is going to back away and grab that AWP. Yeah, minimum 6 hit by Bad News Kangaroos. Again with the fast pace. God's Reign unable to deal with the quick nature of the Aussies.
And I told you, Jay, you're going to have variations of the upper take right there. You go through of an explosion from Squeak Door. You get into the vent drop. It didn't look like there was an incendiary towards Door. Didn't seem as if there was any HE or spam damage. All of those players were dropping into the vents and hardly taking any damage whatsoever.
Wonderful stuff. Again, the Kangaroos look good. 3 total casualties against God's Reign in the CT side. Well, you said 7-5 was the kind of scoreline they wanted to try and have here on this opening half to try and contest this series. Unfortunately, that will not be possible anymore
Here come the double AWP, something that I was very critical of yesterday. And I will say in this scenario, I don't mind it. I mean, you're down 1-6, you're getting absolutely smoked. You have to find something different. Now, I'll still say I'm not that keen, and I didn't think the double AWPs were successful in yesterday's best of 3. But when things really aren't working, you've got to try and change something.
Well, PZ's all has been pretty successful thus far. R2B2 caught by your Wombat. Advantage already against that first AWPer who tried to press in towards Hart and just got dealt with in an instant now. Fired up, Sorp also in the rafters trying to watch out from heaven, but not finding the angles on your Wombat. No damage taken on the T side.
Well, it's showing desperation right now. We're going into the first 10-15 seconds of the round, and an AWP's just got aggressive solo in Hart. God's Reign are struggling to get any semblance of even a pick, even an advantage in some of these rounds. Bad News Kangaroos actually slow it in and now consistently try and prep her towards the A side again.
Finn with a swing and a spray through on towards the mini entrance. Molly's up against Fired Up. We'll try and see if he can do some damage, but just gets damage against him with that Molotov again. It might already be a safe call, especially as Brace catches Revan down at the vents. Now to a 5-on-3 for BNK. In God's Reign, yep, they're out of there.
And this can't be good for the mental game whatsoever from God's Reign going into map number 2. If you get really slammed here on Nuke, I know that it's a map that's an insta-ban. It's a map that doesn't usually get played even in the local scene. But if you get away with a really decimating scoreline, you're not going to be feeling positive about your map pick. You're not going to be going into that next. And Finn even said it, that their mental was destroyed after that first map against Aurora. Look at what happened on map number 2. They got 13-0'd.
Might lose Fired Up. AWP shot does connect onto your Wombat. Barbie went up with the bomb stat. AWP is the only thing that will stay in for God's Reign. Yeah, things are not looking good for them even now. Bad News Kangaroos are just going to keep piling on the hurt. And they're going to keep piling on the pauses here on the God's Reign camp. Still trying to discuss things, still trying to figure out an answer.
And this is where I think we could both sit here and say, Jay, that having at least a coach would have been a helping hand.
Yeah.
Going into one of your most important tournaments so far this year, you're not even bringing an ex-pro, you're not even bringing a former teammate, just someone that can be there in the coach role for you.
That extra perspective, invaluable to so many squads.
Even just to try and keep the tempers right, just to try and mellow the boys.
As it stands, nothing's changing for God's Reign. Another upper take. Split in. Finn just caught so flat-footed. Doesn't know how to respond to Hazard. Straight kill. Advantage taken. Yes, damage has been done by the utility, but Barbie low. Revan's been tagged to just over half HP. 2 pretty easy picks that the T-side can gain. Gonna work in towards this ramp position that catches R2B2 completely off guard. Smoke in hand. Swung upon. Hazard ready for Fired Up. Looking simple once again for the Aussies. This should be number 8.
This has been extremely comfortable for the Aussies, just working their defaults. One of the first times we've actually even seen them take ramp. It's been a lot of upper hits. We saw it previously of challenging ramp early to at least deny the AWP, getting down to that lower bomb side. Revan making noise. Easy shot for PZ. And Bad News Kangaroos have not even broken a sweat in this game.
No, they haven't. Simple stuff. Easy for PZ, I guess you could say, in some capacity. And easy for the rest of the squad as well. Bad News Kangaroos be chilling all the way until the end of the map, perhaps. God's Reign, again with a double AWPs, this time on Revan and Fired Up. Addict straight into that AK, ready for aggression, and Finn actually does win out the fight this time, so something positive here for God's Reign.
Just about. Flashes coming through from main. Finn expecting a vent drop to come in. A walkout from door, though.
Sees contact to heaven, swing back close. Barbie's going to dive back down, but Finn gets caught by the AWP, and now Barbie tries to defend this site alone, overwhelmed by the AK in the end. Hazard even blind spraying onto the position that the AWPer was sat at. Didn't quite get the damage in. Fired Up does find Brace, however, on a wraparound, so 3-on-3 has been gained. Oh, but the player's been seen by PZ. AWP should focus fire against him. R2B2, a blind spot not checked. PZ comes up with 2 frags, looks for the triple. No! Fired Up, drops the bomb and is back up. Looks for the last man, but your Wombat bails out the Bad News Kangaroos to keep the streak alive.
And for the first time in a while for God's Reign, that was actually a round that was very workable. Opening kill presents out from Hut. That wraparound that came through aggressively towards Ramp dropped that bomb very early on into the round. And you could see that while they were still kind of defending the upper bomb site and still having a lot of attention being drawn, they did need to come back into lobby to pick up that bomb. And for just a moment, Fired Up may have just been able to get away with that second round, but not to be. Bad news, Kangaroos come to a very close margin, but in the end, it's your Wombat to close.
Another tactical for God's Reign. The Aussies, 7 on the trot, 9 in total.
Well, I think we've seen, what, 2 multi-frags in 11 rounds from God's Reign? I mean, that's not helping. The idea that a lot of your players, especially the A players, are constantly going 1 for 1. Constantly only getting 1 and not allowing that man advantage into retaking scenarios.
And Fired Up will be miffed at himself for not capitalizing on that final kill. Back on the orb, a glass cannon as part of the force index for round 11. Finn rather on his FAMAS, ready and raring to go as Barbie holds the central site defensive, does get your Wombat caught out in the open and burning to a Molotov. Advantage again taken early by God's Reign, but Kangaroos have traded this so quickly. Down to the player at the ramp entrance, the SMG of R2B2, good for the one, only for the one. Fired Up, gets traded back by PZ. God's Reign hold the man advantage for now. Will it stay?
But they can freeze up here and work Brace into heaven. They've got plenty of options. There's heaps of time on the clock. PZ's working down to that lower bomb side. He's just trying to draw attention and draw some fakes over.
Bombs on his back here, though. E-site may end up being a call. Timing, shot on the shoulder, didn't quite connect, didn't even take that shot. Smoke comes down to protect themselves. They're trying to play the man advantage, but Brace takes a fight on Barbie and makes it a 2-on-2.
A reposition from that AK out to the single door. 45 on the clock, and both of the CTs have rotated down to low already.
Seen over at Decon, PZ are going to try and plant down open for double doors. Smoke still not going to contest for it. It will clear up as a deeper smoke comes in from the CT player attacking from the other side of the site as PZ wins out that fight on Finn. Revan is all that remains, facing into both. Dealt with by PZ all the same. Still looking lights out for the Kangaroos. God's Reign came close, but no cigar.
And there's only so many times that we can say that, Jay, of rounds being closed but not being closed until the entire series is just done. I mean, that round there, you've got an upper take that goes into a cancel. They come out ramp. The trading's actually pretty good there from the Indian squad. But then down to that lower bomb site, how does Barbie not get that kill onto Brace? That MP9 at that sort of range? I don't know how that frag's not presenting.
And one that may well have been able to turn the round back to their favor and everything, but look at Revan's outside player's position. He's going to hear them. He's going to hear all those footsteps going towards Secret, but now he's been sussed out. Now the T should be aware of the information that God's Reign have. Revan tries to back away as Finn tried to set up the defensive, gets through 2 kills. AWP peek back at PZ, gets refaced upon as your Wombat swings for 1 kill, has it with 1 more back. R2B2 trying to hold contention as Finn gets out of the way. His teammate on lower will drop. Bomb is trying to commit, but waiting for your Wombat to join him.
Just reckless trading going on, and somehow Finn gets 2 kills on that ramp rotation to the lower bomb site, and yet we're back into a 2v2. Outside space being compromised. The walk forward from your Wombat and PZ. Fired Up has now got a real lack of info on what the options are. Is it outside to hell? Is it outside to upper? Is it back down to Secret and towards lower? They don't know.
Wherever they go together. Kangaroos will indeed try that heaven play. Missed out by Fired Up, who was down a ramp, now playing into that B bomb site. Molly sent, PZ on site, will get the plant down. Low HP on Finn here in Hut. Can't afford to give away any info, let alone damage to that Molotov. Slowly waiting for his teammate to position himself, but these guys will need to act relatively quickly. Low on the time without a kit. Low HP for the last man that remains. Dealt with by PZ. All the same. 11-1, 10 to the good at the turn of the half for the Aussies.
And I mentioned it quite a lot, Jay, in that series against Aurora on the map of Mirage for God's Reign. Fundamentally, they weren't there. Fundamentally, they were outclassed. And that's the same conversation here on Nuke. They did not have the rotations in order. They did not have the protocols in order. That round for Finn, I'd be fuming. I get 2 kills dropping down in the vents and we're not winning that round when we know they're outside, when Revan is literally heard everyone running T-Red with those outside smokes. It has been a very poor start to this best of 3, and for the bad news Kangaroos, they'll be looking at a 13-1.
Pistol to take, follow up, and then that's good night to map 1. Hazza already taking contact against the T-side line, does get R2B2, Revan with a very fast response and trade, but you've got Brace still positioned at the Hell entrance, takes that 1 pick back, Goosh down to 13, is forced to fall away as your Wombat closes in the pincers, sandwiches them, forces them to commit down ramp.
It's just spotting in case they come back into lobby and start hearing some of these footsteps. They've even got a player out to Squeak Door on a crossfire.
Slow walks of God's Reign have at least been given a little bit of breathing room by Bad News Kangaroos. Didn't opt to continue holding them. Brace top of the rafters though. It's contact to 1 and done position with 13 HP on his board. And all 3 may face him.
All about timing. God's Reign are trying to slow this round down completely. For Brace, he's already getting some info from these lobby players. They have left lobby and they are walking ramp.
Nothing seen by Addict either. To be aware, it's not going to be at least the B players of yet. The Hell position now being contested. PZ does get found by Fired Up, but your Wombat takes him right back. Another split play is in. The player on the site has been heard. The bomb has been dropped on Finn's partner. Needs to recover it. Needs to get it down to the bomb site. Now being contested. The USP shot connects on the first and the second. Brace doesn't need HP to keep this round together. It's map point for Bad News Kangaroos.
It just shows there for God's Reign, Jay. They've got ramp, but what do they do with it? They kind of slow the round down, and it just allows info plays. It allows that backstab to already present towards ramp. Brace is in a position uncleared out there at Sally, and just being able to siphon off both of those kills quite easily. Both players making noise, trying to split into the upper bomb side. And God's Reign will not even be able to work with a massive amount going into what probably is the last round of Nuke because of the lack of plant.
Outside aggression from the CT forces, dealt with in an instant by Finn. Frag gain, responsive, taken back by Addict to 4-on-4. Smoke's in the way to allow them to cross back, try to get themselves downstairs and play out the rest of this default. The Bad News Kangaroos, though, will be in to adjust.
God's Reign are just desperate for someone to make a star impact moment. That reposition from Hazza, close range with the MP9, down in secret.
Good shot from R2B2, 1 more back for him, and a follow-up on Hazza. Makes this now down to 2 on the Kangaroos. Addict has been heard, though. Rotating away from the outside position. Brace going to prod just in case. Scout shots continuing to engage as actually Addict does catch Barvi. Meanwhile, Fired Up gets onto the upper bomb site, continuing to fight with that Scout. Oh no! They've dropped the man advantage. They've dropped the bomb. Addict's looking for more. He's seen that third individual. 1 versus 1 fights for him. And now his teammate here is to join the party.
A Fired Up's already been detected towards A. Addict has done a lot of damage into main. Should be able to finish off the kill.
Alongside Brace and the crossfire, they look towards the outside player next up. Engagement found, the fight and the spray. Still not connecting onto Fired Up just yet. He's bought enough time and breathing room for R2B2 to get the bomb down, but what more can he do? SMG versus 2 for survival in this map. It's just not going to happen. 13-1 domination from the Aussies as they take Nuke to start the series.
Well, disappointing, Jay, is all I can say there for God's Reign. We came into this veto knowing that it was a punish pick, knowing that Nuke that normally gets banned got floated through. If you're going to float Nuke, we've got to expect some level of competitiveness. And right there for the Indian squad, we didn't see any of it.
No, absolutely not. And the silver lining, as we always say, is going to be the fact that their map pick is coming up next. But in terms of on-server performance, we've seen very little from God's Reign in this best of 3 so far. So there's going to have to be a lot of adjustments, I feel like, going into the second map of the series, because Anubis is one that we have seen from them in the tournament, but it was against GRDX, right? And there really wasn't much to go off of in that best of 3 in terms of seeing how good, that proficient that map can be against a team like a BNK.
Yeah, very true. The only thing that we can go off of is the local results in the Indian qualifier, in which we've seen Anubis a couple of times. Outside of that, there's not going to be able for much discussion. And I tell you, discussion, Jay, we're seeing it right here from God's Reign. They look frustrated once more, and I get it. They have been slammed. They have been absolutely destroyed in the opening map of this best-of-3 in the consolidation final.
I mean, look, I am at least glad again that they are trying to get themselves serious about this match, knowing that they're very happy about how that match went down, the fact that they are more focused on trying to improve themselves and get back into the series from there. And I'm at least happy that the mentality of trying to, get a bit more focused up for the second map of the series. But there are a lot of things that need to get fixed up for God's Reign, and it comes a lot down to fundamentals and stuff, right? Again, they weren't able to deal with the aggression that Bad News Kangaroos were getting, a lot of opening picks that weren't really able to get traded, so many things going wrong for God's Reign on Nuke.
And the most uncomfortable factor is that fundamentals won't change between map 1 and map 2. You can talk about maybe adapting a playstyle. You can talk about the way that you want to at least approach the map. But fundamentals, they only get changed over time. They only get changed after an event and maybe after 3 months and more time in with the team. So for God's Reign, this doesn't look promising. And for the Aussies, they'll look at map number 1 and say, that was good. Let's go into map number 2. Let's do the exact same thing. Let's get a similar kind of result. Let's get a similar kind of performance. And let's give ourselves a real fighting chance to go off against Aurora again.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the most likely outcome for them, unfortunately, for God's Reign. I mean, look, they were always going to be in a bit of a tough spot because of the nature of them as a region, right? And that's something that you always talk about, like fundamentals in terms of the divisional scenes, right? You can have success in the Indian circuit, but how does that translate over to the international space? Unfortunately, against Bad News Kangaroos, it doesn't feel like it translates that well at all. Again, I am holding out hope that there is some sort of level of confidence in their own map pick, but I can't rely on that as a certainty going into the rest of the series, considering that it's a 13-1 to start things off.
And just knowing that the last 3 maps that we've seen from God's Reign against at least decent competition is, what, a 1-13 loss, a 0-13 loss, and 6-13. I mean, it's not a lot of rounds. There's not a lot of moments in either of these back-to-back best-of-3s that we can honestly say God's Reign had chances. I mean, out there on Nuke, there was a couple of rounds where it looked as if they had opening kills, they had multi-frags and not closing the round down. It would not have been enough to be able to bring that map down. It would have been able to at least get a few rounds up on the board, but there would have been no way of even coming close to a threatening steal of nat number 1.
Yeah, it's just really not much that you can say other than that for the God's Reign camp. I want to talk about individuals because obviously that's something we've been talking about in terms of these two teams, and we were kind of picking up Addict and seeing how well he was going to do. I mean, he was top fragger, but alongside 2 other players also on that team of Bad News Kangaroos, just to really highlight how well they were playing as a unit and how much they were, as a team, they weren't able to contest, or how much God's Reign weren't able to contest against them. We didn't see much from R2B2. We didn't see much from Revan and Finn. We just haven't seen those guys that we look at the most being able to pop off once again like they did in that GRDX series. And it feels like, again, facing up against tougher competition, they just weren't ready for it today.
Yeah, and to me, there actually wasn't really a star player for the Aussies that really stole the show. I actually think just fundamentally, they played really good T defaults. Brace realized, I want to say by round 3, that A is weak. Once you realize that early on in the half, you could see what they were doing. They were faking the upper takes, they were going into the vent drops, they were going for the A takes, taking ramp, they were going A and committing with it, and all of that variation, God's Reign couldn't deal with it. We saw some really good trading. We saw actually quite a lot of AWP picks from PZ on sort of trade frags outside and trade frags towards inner. Across the board, as a team, they just outclassed them.
Yeah, I mean, look, it was certainly a case that for that A site upper take especially, right, the idea that you're constantly pounding that in and there was no real response from God's Reign. I think they went outside towards Secret maybe twice in that map, if memory serves me correctly, and that wasn't contested at all there. So Bad News Kangaroos just had full pick of the litter when it came to what they were doing in that map up. It felt so proficient, and again, that's not a positive sign going into the rest of the series. A lot of things need to be worked on for God's Reign to hold themselves on Anubis. I'm hoping that they have a game plan at least for their map pick to be able to do what they wanted to do yesterday. They said, right, at the start of the series during the pre-match interview, do better than yesterday, right? And maybe that could be the map where they do sort of try and achieve that, even if they don't win the series or even take a map.
I mean, look, to me, it could just be a bit of copium, right? I mean, you look at the veto, you've let Nuke forward. You've let Nuke in. You know they're going to pick it. There's no way your insta-ban of Nuke in the most recent games is going to get floated to the second wave, then you can ban it there. If you allow a map like that to come in, we've got to see more. And unfortunately for God's Reign, we didn't see it. What we did see is another good performance from Addict.
Yeah, again, like I said, he was even with 2 other players in terms of the top frag kill counts. I think that MVP probably does kind of have to go towards one of those 3, and Addict Addicts will, I guess, probably be the obvious name in that respect. Now are trying to make his run for top fragger of the tournament overall. But look, right, he was delivering, as was everybody else there on the Bad News Kangaroos. I don't think the MVP means a massive amount to the context of this best of 3.
Well, one highlighting aspect is 12 kills, 3 KD. That means he died 4 times in an entire map. He was the lowest death player out of anyone on the Aussies. And that just shows that they couldn't deal with him, that he was creating opportunities, he was getting into good positions, and I want to say after maybe the second gun round, it was just save simulator. That was pretty much what it was for God's Reign, is that they lost the A-bomb site and they just saved. They maybe attempted to see if they could look for an exit, or maybe if one kill presents, they go for it. But it was just save after save after save in that first half of Nuke.
And it's leading to the stat line where your top fragger on the God's Reign side is not even doing as good as your bottom fragger on the Bad News Kangaroos. And when you've got a situation like that, you know that you've got a bad situation ahead of you in the rest of this series. So for God's Reign, like, they've got a lot of thinking to do. They've got a lot of discussion to do. They've got this break in terms of this map up to try and figure out like an angle of attack, a way forward in terms of strategy. I'm not sure what they can come up with. I'm not sure if it'll even work out. And I think that they themselves might be questioning it of their own right. But in terms of mentality on their own side of things, they can't think like it's already over. They have to try and play their best game in order to hold some sort of competition into the next map of the series.
Well, for me, Jay, I think mentally they're just done. We can sit here and say that you hope to turn it around, but consolidation final in front of your home crowd and you've just been 13-1 on Nuke. I mean, it doesn't bode well. It doesn't feel great. It feels as if, man, we've just been destroyed. We've just been pumped. And I think mentally it's insanely difficult to recover. Come map 2. Doesn't even matter whatever map it would be in the series. I think after a performance like that in your most important game out of pretty much any game that you're going to play so far this year, and that's the result.
Yeah, because this is the lower bracket final, right? Loser will go out. The winner will take themselves a spot in the grand finals later on today, and it feels like that's going to be the Bad News Kangaroos based on how well they performed in map 1, based on how well they did over the course of that Nuke. And Anubis, again, like, it's not exactly like it's the best map for the Aussies, but they've got that level of competition where they are still beating out squads like Rooster within the local divisions. They've still got those opportunities to make decent maps happen of that, right? So, yes, it's not the best map, but I think it might still be better in their own respect. Anubis is coming up after the break, so do not go anywhere, as we'll see whether God's Reign can bounce back on their pick.
Vini Júnior, essa é sua última chance de fazer parte da nossa seleção do ano.
Todo mundo tem uma seleção. Escolhe a sua.
Voting is now live at ea.com/TOTY.
Incisive pass. Vinicius Junior. And on to Bellingham.
Red Bull gives you wings.
Fuck. this life will carry on. I'll stay until you leave me drowning. I've slayed a couple demons in my day who don't know I can't be swayed. Oh no, beautiful lies dragging me under the table. Hell in her eyes, she wants to put me in a hole. Beautiful liar, holding me, I am a neighbor. Bleeding me dry, she wants to devour my soul. Fuck.
Incisive pass. Vinicius Junior. And on to Bellingham.
Red Bull gives you wings.
Well, the dream match has turned into more like a nightmare for God's Reign, unable to compete against the Bad News Kangaroos on map 1, a 13-1 for the Aussies. Now it's time to really get their heads in the game and try and figure out some sort of way to work into Anubis. It is the pick of the Indian squad, but there is going to need to be a lot of work done to make it look even anywhere like a turnaround from that first map leg.
Yeah, and I think it shows, right, the difference of the two teams, not with the LAN experience, but the difference of time together. You've got an Indian team here at God's Reign that's brought in a new in-game leader, a new AWPer 1 month ago against a core 4 of players that's been for an entire year. It shows the difference, and unfortunately for God's Reign, I don't think anything can turn around in map number 2. I think it can be more competitive. I don't think we're going to a third map. This should be a comfortable 2-0 for the Aussies.
Yeah, I feel like you're probably right on that particular respect. I mean, there's not really much that you can say to favour the God's Reign side off the back of a 13-1 loss. I mean, maybe you are right in terms of time, right? Maybe time is where things will come together for God's Reign. Maybe if they take a few more months to work with this new 5-man core and try to work their results back into an international stage, then maybe they could try and contest a team like the Aussies. But in terms of the here and now, like, it doesn't feel very likely, pretty much impossible, that God's Reign are going to take us to a third map in the series, which is a shame, Dwayne, because again, this was supposed to be our dream match of the tournament.
Yeah, and look, I want to say for Bad News Kangaroos, if you get off to something similar, now it doesn't have to be a 13-1, but just a convincing result, right, where we show that they are the much better team out here on Anubis, I actually think that they'll give Aurora a run for their money. Now, that's not to say that they can beat Aurora or even take a map, but they'll challenge them, because that's what all of these teams are looking to do. Can we challenge Aurora? And I honestly do believe that if you get another one-sided performance here, the confidence is going to be high. They would have learned from some of their mistakes the first time around, and that they'll look to try and do one better.
Yeah, I mean, certainly if you come in with a lot of confidence into that matchup, having just absolutely smashed out your opposition, then yeah, like there's a good opportunity to continue to press and try and replicate that 11-13 or go further than what they did in the first map of the tournament against Aurora. So the Bad News Kangaroos, as they mentioned, it's all about getting involved in this, getting it over and done with, focusing on that big grand final because they are on to take this series here on Anubis. Pistol round is going live with Kangaroos on the T-side start. God's Reign set with one player on that A defense, which is where all 5 of the Kangaroos are leaning.
And not quite a rush rugs. Now, R2B2 does have a smoke, so we can put that down to main. I don't think that's going to force a cancel, though. Bad News Kangaroos are going to go in quickly with this. They can smoke off Heaven, they can smoke off Camera, and they can have a couple of flashes into the bomb site directly.
Well, plays are coming in from Canals from Finn's part. As R2B2 starts to press, he loses his life, and he loses that utility. Finn can catch PZ and deal with Brace the same. So, advantages can be taken with a bomb being dropped, and the T's forced to refight in water control. 3 players on the crossfire, fired up with one of his own. Addict gets involved in this one, but now he's the last player left against 3 players, a firing squad facing in all the same position, but Bad News Kangaroos do not get away with the pistol win.
And I was actually maintaining the starts there from R2B2 and saying he's gone way too aggressive there, he's challenging too quickly. But what you don't quite notice is how quick that info play is approaching out from Canals. He gets on the front foot there to try and slow it down, to try and buy that time. And as soon as that one good connection comes through on that backstab of the bomb being dropped, that whole round was over. Think about if that execute comes in, what, half a second, 1 second earlier? That's a completely different round. A-side's cracked open, bomb plant is down.
And that backstab working wonders for God's Reign, a start for them. An all-important one because, I mean, positive starts have been their most positive thing so far in this tournament. Get that pistol, convert it, carry on from there. And do all that they can to try and contest. Again, it's just about contesting this second map in the series.
And for God's Reign, just being able to show more in their rifle rounds as well. On a map that is going to be more comfortable for them, a map that they're more familiar with. The force buy, though, is coming through for the Aussies, and that does make you question whether this is going to be a 2-0 and even 3-0 start for God's Reign. Could the response be in instant with the resets?
Well, let's find out. No bomb plant bonus for the Kangaroo camp. Tech9's on a force buy across the board, though. They will still force the issue. Play pretty much the exact same setup, minus 2 players that will spread apart, and one will work back to watch Canals. Ready for Finn's press forward, straight shot, the spray. It does go a little bit awry, but the first bullet accuracy does apply. Tech9's up close against Revan, will deal with him, and now Bobby is about to be pressured. Smoke down instantly at main.
It just has to be a cancel. Now, you've got a reposition from R2B2 out in mid, so he can come in from camera quickly and help out the likes of the in-game leader. Bad News Kangaroos have got to start getting a move on when this smoke clears, because the worry now is there an info play outside of B main? Is there an info play into mid? Are we just running into an A-stack?
They themselves have gone heavy-handed on the ace site on the defense. They've also brought Finn in to watch mid as R2B2 will join Barbie. It's the 2 SMGs. Central site defenders with M4 support if necessary. The smokes come in and immediately Finn is able to act to get ahead of the camera smoke. Molotovs will try block them. Barbie keeping himself held behind the pillar at the platform. Spray is a little bit awkward. They do come together for Barbie though. Double up, triple found. And a lockout here in this round. Even through the smoke, Brace is going to fall. Very nicely done from the captain.
It's just too much counter utility there for the Bad News Kangaroos. You're being re-smoked down towards main constantly, and you have to go. You can't get yourself into a position that you can adapt and move the default elsewhere. You need to just keep tunneling it in. And you mentioned it, 2 on A, third player out there in camera. A strong read on the situation, and God's Reign make it 2 in a row.
Yeah, no force back steal for the Kangaroos, so harsher eco should allow a 3-0 start for the CT side. Already getting a better scoreline than that first map in the series, so positives in small amounts to glean. Fired up, going to fire away against Hazard, deal with him. Canals caught off and dealt with the same. Revan, his SMG, will try and prod, has those pistols that are firing back prematurely. Shadow advantage seen. Revan just catches Addict.
And Barbie already getting away with more kills here in the first 2 rounds of Anubis than the entire map of Nuke. Individually, we want to see more from some of the star individuals. Finn is going to be my go-to guy, and Revan on the AWP. R2B2 jiggling out here from Cave, just trying to spot towards B main.
Smokes go down a little bit deep, I'd imagine. Oh, that's a decoy, excuse me. Don't usually see that in professional CS. Fired up. Doesn't get his quadra in to pad his own stats. 3-0 start for God's Reign. All 5 alive in that last round. Bad news, Kangaroos can start to bring in the buys and the rifles. Be up to play.
And this is for Bad News Kangaroos, where they need to set a precedent quite early on. If you're not converting this opening rifle round, you could be down 0-5, and that's when the money gets in a strong position. You can see God's Reign are still looking to try and get as much out of these SMGs as possible, rather than upgrade Revan into the big green.
Yeah, money cash bonus, and of course you have all automatics across the entire board. Doesn't stop the range game from your Wombat, winning out against R2B2 first and foremost. I think that was a B main aggressive play from the CT player. Yeah, fell behind that smoke. Advantage now taken. They start to look in potentially towards that B split. 2 players out of A main will start to take face and fight. Not see anything over at Water. The shot of PZ does reveal where Fired Up is. Only player on defense here.
Intriguing to see an aggressive maneuver into B main solo, not with a teammate in sight. Now Molly has been hurt out here towards mid, so Barbie was going to try and swing on the contact, flash around the corner, looking to try and put some emphasis, but the player's just going to drop down straight into the canals.
Fired Up did get PZ, that's the AWP, dropped Hazard, storms his way forward, pre-fires the smoke and gets Fired Up in the end. Now up to Revan, SMG with 1 pick, Addict very fast to respond, and Barbie overwhelmed by your Wombat and his 2K in this round. Finn all alone, setting up the backstab, but now needs a full-on retake clutch.
Just a site collapse, isn't it? And losing that first player early on, looking to contest mid, but once that drop down comes in, Hazard just gets a move on. And Finn's going to try his best, but looking out from default, he does catch the first.
Brace to fall. Next 2 T-side players are not revealing themselves until your Wombat does get caught in the open. Still finds the kill regardless. A triple for him in the round. Very well done for the Kangaroos. Expensive one, especially with bonus weapons. I guess you can take some positives again from God's Reign. But Aussies are on the board.
And once more, Jay, when we remind ourselves of the 5-1 start against Aurora and how decimating the gun rounds were after that, with what we saw in Mirage, with what we saw in Nuke in map 1 of the series, yes, you might be able to get some early success, but they need to prove consistency in the gun rounds. That is the bottom line on this map of Anubis.
Well, a chance again to establish some presence. Upgrade of the true weapons, the M4s and the AWP. No FAMASs, no SMGs. Still going away with damage on the Kangaroos camp. The MAC-10 on Brace is all that he's going to have. From range, Hazard sees where Barbie is. Barbie forced to escape, and rightfully so.
It's a very heavy stack out to the B site. You could see the way they presented the AWP early on. Rotated 3 players out. Barbie's leaving mid, and there is a lot of map control pretty much been taken here from Bad News Kangaroos. Revan does strike out with 1 towards B.
PZ to drop. Advantage taken again for God's Reign. Barbie behind that smoke. Can't see the T side. They're allowed to walk their way up into mid, and I don't think anyone from the CT side and the B side specifically is going to counteract it. R2B2 is ready back at spawn. That's the rotate if they go for an Exi though.
And hearing that reposition from Finn, Bad News Kangaroos really slow this round down, and if they exploit towards A, this could actually be the weak point. Barbie is alone and without any utility to A.
We've heard that rotation. MAC-10 not ready for R2B2. AK can't catch him. Just quick kill, back away. Strategies played by the CT forces eventually do get caught for 1 decent trade back. 22 seconds though. They have to execute them in bracketed as the mid control is taken back by God's Reign, but B site is the hit. Fired up in an electric. Revan, his AWP can land on Hazard. Your Wombat with 1 back of his own, but overwhelmed by the rifles inbound from Temple, and that's a little bit more confidence for God's Reign.
Well, it just shows, unfortunately, there for the Aussies, they run into the trap. A site is very weak. I want to say, even in a man disadvantage, if they go into camera and they split A, they win that round, 100%. Everyone was out of position. Barbie was completely alone without util. They get in towards CT, they look to try and split into B, and there is just mass players from God's Reign.
And the backstab's held together by the players that rotated from that A site. You mentioned it being a weak point, and that could have been a decent exploitation there for the Kangaroos, but not to be in the end. AK, hero for Hazard, trying to enter onto that A bomb site very quickly here. Molotov set, HE is going to come down to his position. The most damage Finn can do with this. Decent enough. He's still going to try and force out the fight. Doesn't see the man. You're going to see the player up at the stairs. Yes, he will. Kill found to start. Does he fall away? He'll try to, but Finn marks him.
And this is where they're exploiting mid, going in quite aggressively, trying to put pressure onto Fired Up here in that rotation, but PZ just can't quite catch him.
Advantage back for God's Reign. Bomb also out into mid with no real easy access to a bomb site. Addict's going to pick up that AK and try and apply it towards both these CT players and maybe even support against Fired Up and his kill. No, your Wombat comes up good. Addict with a follow-up as well. Block to face and take a fight back onto the damage done of Barbie. The backstab of R2B2 though. Now up against your Wombat. 1-on-1. Rifle v rifle. Damaged up player. Swing forward and R2B2 catches strays and keeps it together for God's Reign.
Well, I want to say for Bad News Kangaroos, that's probably one of the best rounds that you can get on a limited upgrade. You've got, what, a hero AK for Hazard and the players on Glocks. You've got one Deagle out for your Wombat working mid. That's a lot of damage. That was nearly a steal. God's Reign's economy is going to be looking incredibly light in the reserve off of the back of this rifle round to follow. The Indians will be happy with the scoreline, though. Only giving away that single rifle round, and that is it.
The 5-1 start the Bad News Kangaroos had on Nuke being returned by God's Reign here. But it is the exact same score that they had above Aurora on Ancient in their upper bracket final match that eventually Aurora were able to turn around when they got those rifle wins, when they got the damage done, exploited the economy, and really put the hurt back on God's Reign. Very, very similar circumstances here and now.
Yeah, you've got to imagine there's a little bit of PTSD from that 5-1. As soon as you look up at that scoreboard, you think, oh no, not again.
Look up at that scoreboard, start to have worries, look back at the economy, and it's like, oh, okay, now we're in trouble. Especially if they lose this round. Bad News Kangaroos. Seeing aggression from God's Reign out here in mid. And over at Canals, R2B2 pressing very aggressive, but you have got Addict that's just held back. Waiting behind the smoke, hoping for a very aggressive face on the CT basis, but more about this B default than anything else. Hazard's got the bomb in first. It might be best to pass that off to a teammate before he starts taking aggressive fights.
And this is the right decision. Aggressive Canals nose has been taken to go in for the B exec, go in for the straight up XE and put pressure on the B defender.
Counter Molly will cancel for a second, but it's only a stall. 2 flashes sent. Addict watching mid for any rotations that might get caught. Hazard's going to find the entry onto Barbie, though. And nades over. Addict does catch Finn in the end. Make it a 4-on-3 with R2B2's responsive, but the plant will be secured here. Fired Up gets it back to evens, though, and Fired Up will follow suit on Hazard. No one marking off his electric control. PZ even caught flash blinded as Fires Up continues to hold dominance in the retake. Now a 3K required for Addict in the full-blown ace. Fallen back outside of main, being watched upon the bomb tap once. He's going to jump face, make some noise. The AWP so ready. Oh, his teammate almost got in the way, but Revan does find the kill, and God's Reign hit minimum 6.
That's a massive round to come through from Fired Up. Right there for the Bad News Kangaroos. That round, in my mind, is finished. You've got the opening kill onto Barbie down there on B. You've been able to cut a rotation in from house. That round should be secured. That round should be over from the opening 2 casualties. But in there to Canals, in from Dark. Fired Up just gets kill after kill to set up that retake with a triple.
Nicely played on his part. Now it's the Kangaroos that can't come up with an answer to that. The lead extends. The reign extends. Indian squad 5 to the good, and again, cannot lose this CT half. Bad News Kangaroos still work off of that bomb plant and loss bonus, so the rifles will return from them. That's what we wanted to see from God's Reign, winning these rifles relatively consistently. Bad News Kangaroos They can continue to test them though, especially with the money still being where it is for the CT Forces. One good round here from the BNK camp. Gives quite a lot in the reset potential. Hazza looking for that first pick. Revan is so ready for him.
AWP looking to try and create an opening out here from House. Boost up though. Will he be ready for this?
Not quite. PZ still can't get the shot off of the kill though. Minimal damage being done. Revan putting that incendiary down to stop them from pressing the doors. Instead, flashes will come out over at elbow, turned away from. So wary of what could be coming his direction. Two teammates called in here to defend the mid position. No exploits available for the Kangaroos.
And they've definitely been able to over-rotate the CTs. There's no denying that one. Double temple play, one split away in from camera. Still a lot of time on the clock. Double up out to the doors. This AWP is still with intrigue to try and work an opening.
Smokes. Counteracted by Revan. Seeing the play that crossed, shot does ring out as he misses that opening blow. Brace force forward, flashes are sent, blind sprays go back and forth for damage. Finn comes up a little bit worse for wear for it, but continuing to spray against all the T-side players, just getting one kill in the end. Finn overwhelmed by the numbers game, a 3-on-3 as the AWP is now here to receive. May have been heard of that scope. You got one player also watching for rotation, so with that kill on the orbit, leaves it to one man to plant the bomb and hold the defensive centrally.
And PZ has to try and at least fight out here from heaven, try and force one of these players back before they can prioritize the plant. This is a strong position once more for God's Reign.
No kills for PZ so far in this map up though. Finally breaks that dry spell. Looking for the next player as well. Addict going to catch off, fired up. 6 seconds though. Need to prioritize that bomb plant. Revan's turn up to the M4. Trying to fire back on the default plant position, but Addict is so ready for him. Reads what's going on and finally will break the streak of the God's Reign side and most likely break their economy as well.
It's going to put a lot of pressure back on the hometown favourites right here of God's Reign. Because, Jay, you look at that scenario, I think we can both sit here and say every day of the week you should be winning that round. The time that's limited on the clock, the double play in from heaven, the one from camera. Man, not closing that down has just allowed an avenue. Now, this is where the Bad News Kangaroos need to exploit and get closer to 5, even 6 rounds on the T side. Try and maximize the success.
A hard stack into the CT forces. They're going to face the majority of T-side players here. 5-on-3 with the rifle advantage being to the 3. Flash sent, R2B2 with a decent pick. Fired up also against one of his own right. Finn does tons of damage, even gets away with a kill. 2 players alive on the T side. Bomb dropped in the open and Brace's low HP. Now they've got guns to play with. This is going to get very awkward for the Kangaroos camp. Finally, Wombat comes forward. Finn is dealt with and Barvi, all that remains, seeing his feet. Spray comes together and they just recover the round. How that could have gone so wrong for the Aussies though.
Well, we've definitely seen over the course of Anubis that there has been some scrappy rounds. That one comes into a very light lack of investment, doing a lot of damage. 3 kills, that at least puts the T economy not in the strongest of sorts. God's Reign. I want to say, Jay, this has been the best performance that I've seen from them in this tournament. Yes, we can sit here and say that they thrashed the Indonesians, but against decent level competition, this is their best showing.
We got rifles back for round 10. The Masters onto M4s for 3. Bad News Kangaroos can still buy up all of their AKs, but those buys will become limited if they lose this round. So much damage done with that eco. Successful one in the overall. Can they punish it now?
And not having that AWP into the hands of Revan means that the rifles need to be able to take more information away. Finn's hearing a couple of footsteps and a flash in there towards A main. Hasn't forced an over-rotation just yet, though.
Counter flash is in position. Molly sent ahead of the game. Damage being done in massive amounts to Barvi as Addict gets ahead of the fire put down by the CT forces. Bomb is close, should get planted. No denial available. 5-on-5 standoff. The retake set in as Hazza finally takes some fights. Wins out one on Barvi, but Finn hiding in the smoke. He's not going to get checked until it finally clears. Lines up 2 kills for it. Turns to the bomb site. Aware of where Addict is. Your Wombat responds, but only for 1. And Brace is all that's left. Footsteps heard. They face the corner. They all line up, but R2B2 keeps the round held together and gets the hearth for God's Reign.
That's a magic moment right there from Finn. Very good entry into the bomb site and pathing there for Bad News Kangaroos to get that opening kill, to get that bomb down to take bricks, but no one is clearing out that heaven smoke when it disappears. So much impact, so much ability there from Finn.
Massive moment. One that gets it back for God's Reign when it felt like the pressure was right there for the Kangaroos. Count one mistake costs them. And even with that lineup, even with that spray from main, the Aussies tested in this second map. There seems to be something in the Indian squad today. Yes, map one was a disaster. Yes, we didn't have much faith coming into this, but they have shown some serious potential behind them. Tacticals are being taken by the CT forces, though, because it came down to one man alive. We go to the penultimate round of the half. It could lead to very little if either side loses this next.
There was a great attempt there of a recovery from Brace, because when it gets down to a 1v3, it almost feels like that round is completely over. God's Reign. 7-3. I want to say that 8, probably even 9 rounds is going to get gained in this first half from them. And win this rifle round, there won't be much investment for Bad News Kangaroos. A lot of players aggressively outside B.
Gone hard stacks at Rugs, this time hard stack outside of main. Again, the press of aggression will lead one player to be away from that B defense. Hazard starting to walk with his teammates. Nades sent, flashes over, 1 kill found. R2B2 overwhelmed with a trading game, 2 for 1 that favours the Kangaroos, but very quickly fired up is in an electric. Can he have the same impact as he did in that previous 3K? Faced upon by your Wombat. Smokes does get caught off guard. Finn and Revan, all that the retake has to offer. Caught outside of the bomb site. Sprays does catch off your Wombat with his back turn. Finn, however, doesn't stick around for much more. Revan can strike, though. Make it a 2v2. These retakes coming in quick, but there's a counter backstab inbound from Brace. Mac 10 to face. Revan goes down. Finn, all that remains, aware of one, should be able to connect the dots on the second player, especially as he fires back, but Brace keeps his control held and keeps the round together for Bad News Kangaroos again.
And for God's Reign, it shows belief in some of these rounds, Jay, but I'm looking at that one thinking, how is that not an instant save? That is a 2v4 attempt at the retake, and fair play to them. It actually did start approaching a bit of a steal round. They got a couple of picks. They start leaning into the bomb side. But with the money where it sits, holding on to 2 M4s for me would have been the much better decision in a 2v4.
Especially considering that the buy is not going to lead to any rifles at all for God's Reign. Upgrade pistols, 1 SMG for Bavi. BNK. Well adjusted and well bolstered to take this final round of the half and recover a 5th to close out said half. God's Reign certainly have thrown up a performance in the opening stages of Anubis. But the scoreline to close would give a very decent avenue for the Aussies if they can find it.
R2B2 is just working on the outside of this smoke into electric just to see if there's a walk forward. Very slow. Info play to B main as well.
Last sent, 5-7's taken, fight fired up, caught. Finn also falls. Lean ever closer towards the B bomb site where R2B2 and Bavi looking to try and take fight. R2B2 does look to engage. Hazard cuts him down. Left to 1 player in the back lines, does get a kill onto your Wombat, so decent enough for Bavi's part, but no more than that. Him and Revan are found. It's a 7-5 half that favours God's Reign.
I do want to look at it from God's Reign and maybe get some of your perspective on this one, Jay. They were up 6-1 and only get away with 7 rounds. And that 7th round they did gain was a massive 3K from Finn out there in heaven. I don't know. I think when you're in that position, when you've got your opponents on the ropes, that striving for more than just 7 rounds would have been ideal.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, again, as I said before, like it's been a good half from them, but the scoreline recovery there for the Bad News Kangaroos gives them an avenue of return. It gives them that chance to take the pistol, equalize the scoreline, then once again try and test those rifles and carry it on from there. But God's Reign are now on the T side. Attacking force to try and overwhelm the Kangaroos camp just like they did in their opening half. Smokes being sent towards the execution, is fired up, tries to prod out towards B very early here. USP taps of your Wombat, not doing much damage, does get a headshot on fired up in the end. The Exy continues to come forward as he catches R2B2 and Finn gets caught on the flank. 2 versus 5 for God's Reign's post plant.
Bavi just try to see if he could work a trade, try and see if he could work his teammate. Revan's already been seen at the backside now.
Taps against that Glock. Hearing footsteps coming in, he's going to try swing for aggression. He needs to try and take these fights, it seems. He wants to try and see if he can get the man advantage back, but he's just overwhelmed by the numbers here, as is Bavi. 1 on 5, not going to happen. Pistol game by the Kangaroos.
And if you notice that, Jay, a missed smoke that came down from God's Reign on that B-site execution, they looked to smoke off left-hand side of the bomb side and Temple. Now, we know from your Wombat's perspective that he just gets a spam kill, but I'll put it this way. If he gets smoked at Temple, he's got to make 2 decisions. He's either got to play retake of 5v5, or he's got to get aggressive and get out to the backside, which is a risk if you're playing solo B. Because that missed smoke does not go down towards Temple, he can stay in Temple and at least keep firing for a little bit longer.
And we saw how we got the kill for it, so just positives off the back of that mistake. God's Reign did secure the plant. They will be in for the investment. Bad news, Kangaroos will have to face resistance very early. Of course, we'll see their own buys coming in with 2 M4s to boot already. 4 Galil's out for God's Reign, so at least for the Aussies, they're not challenging any of these AKs here.
Well, I do want to take this moment, Jay, and discuss your Wombat. His first ever international LAN, and he is top fragging for the Bad News Kangaroos. He had impactful rounds in that first half. He obviously was the one that won the opening duel to set up the pistol. And for someone that's just coming in to help the boys out, to be that 5th player, to be their stand-in while they work in the new roster change of Damio into the roster, this is great. This is the map that gets you into the grand final. This is the map to try and close into, and your Wombat is the one that's delivering.
To step up, especially when it was like a 6-1 scoreline there from the God's Reign camp at one point, allowing that avenue of return, especially when guys like Addict have taken the brunt of the spotlight, and when PZ's been showing up with the AWP. That smile has some viciousness behind it, I guess. And indeed, a top fragger of his team, top fragger of the server as well. 16 deep, Addict not far behind him. Rightfully, he is on that M4 on defense here. God's Reign forced by to try and force out early economical advantages. They can win this round. Bad News Kangaroos may stand to lose quite a lot, but your Wombat's still involved. 2 picks to his name with PZ support, and he gets away with an advantage.
2 casualties lost early on means that a response needs to come through. Barbie is setting up the B fake when they're actually walking in a contact to A main.
Let's see whether this smoke lands this time. R2B2 and Revan backed up. Starting to make the moves as the smokes do come down, but no action from the A rotators. The walkout comes in. R2B2 dealt with. Revan seen. Bomb now dropped. All alone is Bubby on his fake. Known about to the CT forces. And Bad News Kangaroos didn't break a sweat in round 14.
They made it look easy. That double play aggressively into Electric put a lot of temper into the round. And notice how the A players, I should say, Jay, just aren't even moving, are they? That single smoke for Barbie, it's not obvious. Hazard's maybe repositioning or Addicts going back into camera. They're holding their ground. They are not trying to get over-rotated by a single smoke on B.
Passive crossfires held. Play for contact. Kill found onto 1. Transfer into the second. Galil swapped out 2, but Addict is there to deal with him. He is so focused on Heaven. Turned back upon by the last player of that CT defense. So 3 players do fall, but the scoreline stands at even 7 apiece, and there shouldn't be a buyback from God's Reign.
Well, I want to say, Jay, that the most important thing that I want to watch out for in these next few rounds is actually the player cams. Doesn't even really matter what happens in the gun rounds. I want to know what the mental's going to be like here for God's Reign. I want to look at how tempered they are going into what is now an uncomfortable tied-up scoreline that should be a lead to the Aussies.
Upgrade pistols on God's Reign for a couple of players to try and do some damage at least. Again, trying to set up that reset that allowed the Bad News Kangaroos to carry themselves back into that first half. God's Reign trying to do the same thing in the second. Early damage against Finn, more frivolous than Brace's early dinkbacks. 4 HP versus 61. Not even including the other tags against the other players.
Still seeing nothing, constantly jiggling and making these info prods in from house, and nothing's presenting whatsoever. Brace, as soon as he gets contact, he can put down a smoke or an incendiary to main.
heard those Deagles fighting and blocks it off in an instant.
I feel like Finn needs to get this Deagle in somebody else's hands. I mean, 4 points of health, it's not going to be much use.
They are all grouping up, so perhaps there's a chance to do that before the execution comes in. R2B2 is taking his Deagle in for a fight, doesn't win either of them. Barvi goes down alongside his man. 5-on-3 gain. The Kangaroos continuing to wait for this play into a bomb site. The bomb is out in mid as well for Fired Up, so if they are going to hit B, he's going to have to split in or rejoin them very quickly, and time is running out.
Bad news, Kangaroos have got a deadly crossfire. PZ out there from Temple. Up against the Deagle shot. Revan just hoping for that one good headshot connection, but not to be. And God's Reign would Fired Up. Out from camera, has already been seen.
Takes one shot with him. Second man seen, but Hazard deals with him all the same. Lead gained by BNK. 4 players alive, so not much damage received in those bonus pistols. Now the rifles can return for God's Reign, and well, now their chances will be tested. Their map pick will be stressed.
And when we were having a little joke, Jay, about the PTSD of the 5-1 scoreline, I think it's come into a factor now where it really isn't funny, and it's something that's hurting the God's Reign side. They cannot seem to respond after back-to-back best-of-3 series with early leads.
They're able to carry it forward to a half victory at least, but in terms of the map that sort of keeps them in the tournament, you are right. Bad news, Kangaroos. Not quite aware of the aggression coming in from the likes of Finn. He's just been seen there by Yo Wombat, barely catching him ahead of that smoke, but caught him nonetheless. Advantage taken.
I heard the footsteps in from the Flames, so knew that he had to be aggressive, knew that he had to be out there to electric, so break the smoke, pre-aim out there towards that left-hand side. And Finn drops early. No response from God's Reign. A lack of map control as well. You've got nothing towards mid. Nothing being approached out there to A main either. And there's an info play from 2. This is both Addict and Hazard getting aggressive into main.
Utility sent towards that A site, trying to sell a fake. Again, they're not biting on the Bad News Kangaroos. Smoke comes down to the B site. Perfect timing of that.
Well, this round's just done, is it? I don't actually know how there's a journey in. Now, they think there might be a mid lurk, and that's why Brace is repositioning. But with a time low and 2 on B, Bad News Kangaroos in a really good position.
Yeah, Brace will just play protection. The bomb hit is starting to come through. Even press out towards A main may start to get information back at the CT basis. Shots start ringing out. Revan does connect onto PZ. R2B2 overwhelms the backline defense, but there's still one player. Center of the bomb site. Your Wombat with his kill. Here's footsteps. Engages that second player, but Fired Up comes good with Barvi's backstab. Closing back against the rotations of Hazard, and somehow God's Reign have pulled off this round. Addicts alone. Backs up at Electric. Gonna try his hand at the clutch. Face damage done. Fired Up gets his multi once again, bailing out his team.
And maybe just too much of a breakaway in that scenario. Yes, they've got the info covered out there to A main on the aggressive approach, but not knowing about mid, drew Brace away out to CT, and on the site directly, there's entry frags coming in. You've got a very uncomfortable reposition from Brace. If he gets out there to Temple, maybe a second, 2 seconds earlier, he can re-smoke down, maybe get out to the back of default or a more tucked angle. Just gets exposed on that contact. So good entries there from God's Reign. A round that didn't look all that workable.
The Bad News Kangaroos had a chance to really run away with this. Instead, they're going to be pressed once again. Forced to continue fighting. And force buying as well into round 17. They've got 1 M4, 1 FAMAS, and 2 SMGs and a pistol to bolster. God's Reign's damage has come into effect against the CT side. Massive swing opportunity for them. Vice versa can apply to Bad News Kangaroos, though. Buy is just so much better on the T side.
Very heavy play out to A. And this is where they've got to try and work with some of that info. Brace is alone with that MP9 out on the B side.
Putting utility down at least. Smoke sent towards main, indicating that there might be a play here. They got one player ahead of the curve, the Molotov, that should drive PZ back. He does force to use a smoke, and Brace does go down over on that B box. That should be round. Bad News Kangaroos, not even too enthusiastic about the rotation here. Have to protect that M4 above all else, because God's Reign are going to have 9.
Well, this was a much quicker prod into that B site, just working that timing. Barvi out from mid, gets away with a 1-for-1, but there's also a backstab presenting out from Temple, and yep, Finn's going to be able to get away with a couple. So you go in for a heavier stack, you go in for a gamble, slightly heavier to A, you leave just an MP9 on B, doesn't work? Okay, look to try and eco in the next round. And for God's Reign, this is a strong position that they find themselves in. Now they've got to capitalize. Now they've got to try and see if they can get a few rounds in a row and stabilize their own economy.
Chance to get to number 10 for God's Reign. Bad news, Kangaroos. Straight USPs, you mentioned the harsher pistol basis, the harsher eco stance. Revan has seen one player jump facing, not quite baiting out the AWP. He's going to hear Finn, of course, coming in. Eventually faces to face and goes down pretty easy for it. Advantage for God's Reign, already had that off the bat. A 5-on-4.
There's no denying that this is the most competitive map that we've seen all tournament so far. Yeah, you can look at the scoreline of the 13-11 that we had between Aurora and the Bad News Kangaroos. That was also off of the back of 2 very one-sided first and second halves in vice versa fashion.
Yeah. The 9-3 to start things off for the Kangaroos camp in that map up. This one was a much closer 7-5. And still 2 rounds to the good on God's Reign's lead. Equalised at several points. Bad News Kangaroos even took a lead of their own right, but the last 3 in a row have gone the way of the Indian squad, and now they can try and press to map point, try and take us to a 3rd in this best of 3. The Kangaroos camp need to find a return. They've got their rifle buys here against the AWP are fired up, and the AK is also there to back it all up.
And for your Wombat, eyes are going to be on him to see how he's going to be able to respond come this next rifle round. A bit of pivotal piece here for the Bad News Kangaroos across the entire map of Anubis. And for God's Reign, being able to provide that AWP as well for round number 19 is going to be a difference maker.
We'll see how that round plays out in a second. We have got some technical issues, of course, with our feed, so we'll bring that back in as soon as we can do. But look, again, another important round, another chance, of course, to try and deny the situation that the God's Reign side sitting for the Kangaroos camp. And look, they have played a very fantastic game over on the Indian side, but need to see those responses from Kangaroos, right? The same sort of run-up they had to try and get those 5 rounds at the tail end of the first half. Need to try and recover the 2-round deficit that they had at the start of the half as well. Like, so many chances, of course, to try and turn it back for their own part of things. But right now, God's Reign are the ones that are in control.
I don't know if I would say that. I mean, in control when you're 10-8, there's not much in the game. I actually think this game's going to come down to a couple of key rounds. I think one round here or there, one good rifle round is probably going to dictate which way it goes. Whether it continues to be a bit of a round streak for God's Reign or whether it's just that one rifle round that forces a slight reset. That's always going to happen when you get into these close score lines. So no one's really at the stronger position right now. It's going to be down to who provides the most success in the pressure rounds.
And again, this could be that rifle round, right? This could be the one that really presses. Yeah. Again, they are looking for map point off the back of this for God's Reign. If they win it, go 2 rounds in a row, 12-8, and then Kangaroos will be playing for overtime, if not, to go towards that 3rd map of Inferno. And that would be a hell of a way to return off the back of a 13-1, right? Much more competitive in this 2nd map, a chance to really press us to all 3, our first 3-map series, if we get that far. But the Kangaroos, I mean, they must be understanding that they would love a 2-0 of their own right? We talk about the idea that they were looking to get away with a confident 2nd map, a confident 2-0 scoreline and series against God's Reign, and they need to put as much as they can behind this, because no matter what you say about who's in control, how much there is in this game, the fact of the matter is that they are 2 rounds ahead over on the God's Reign camp. So they need to focus fire, they need to get up on this one, they really need to hold their own.
And we were kind of talking about it early on in the show. The whole position here for Aurora is that they're looking at the grand final already. If they see this series going to the 3rd map, they think, sweet, this is exactly what we want. The last thing that a favorite like Aurora wants is a 2-0 stomping, a really consistent performance, a really good showing. So if God's Reign are able to push it to that 3rd map, Aurora are going to be looking at either of these teams saying, yeah, that's where we want you right here.
Yeah, look, I mean, at the end of the day, you also have to think about the fact that, you know, the extra break that you would have if you got a 2-0, the extra time you'd have to readjust, sort of cool down and get a little bit more energy going into that next map. And, of course, to also get your game plans together, right, to go over that last best of 3 and then to press on into the next one with the necessary counter-strikes that you would have had against Aurora from the first matchup for the Bad News Kangaroos especially, right? So the idea that this is going the whole distance, the idea that obviously they are expecting Bad News Kangaroos also, as well for the Aurora camp, like they are licking their lips at the moment, understanding that even with it not being as one-sided as it was going to look out in the best of 3, that's already a small little advantage point for the Aurora camp.
And for God's Reign, we've kind of developed this story over the course of the entire event of this is their moment. This is their opportunity and event to kind of prove that Indian CS has got what it takes to be able to compete at the Asian level. And being able to take a map when you're up 10-8 on Anubis would get closer to that conversation. It would start adding more evidence to that whole example of, in the past, we normally look at the Chinese teams. We're now looking at the Mongolian teams. We're looking at the Australian teams. Maybe we should start looking at the Indian teams. So this one map and this one scoreline has a lot more on the line than maybe what the majority of viewers are looking at in this context.
Yeah, look, I think, again, for God's Reign, it was all about translating success, and they weren't able to do that against Aurora. I don't think we expected them to do that against Aurora. They were able to have a thrashing series to start off against GRDX, but that wasn't really a capable team within the context of the 4 that we had up. But this was the match we were expecting that could be the litmus test for both teams in context of what they're doing, especially God's Reign, who won't have the future opportunities that the Bad News Kangaroos will do. So, again, a lot on the line in terms of these last handful of rounds here in the map up, and we'll bring you those as soon as we get connection back, as soon as we start to get the series going once again. We have, of course, just experienced some tech issues, so we'll get that going all the same here. For the God's Reign camp, though, obviously, it's a massive turnaround, right? It's a huge situation for them to come out of that first map and then now to carry themselves into this second one with more confidence. So what's been the difference, right? What have they changed up from map 1 to 2 that has allowed them to do as well as they have?
Well, the first one is obviously they've granted early success. Look at the first half, you go up 6-1. You look at the second half, you lose pistol, you lose anti-eco, you lose the next round. You then instantly respond with the rifle round. And I think that's something that they showed competitiveness from the early starts to the halves. They've obviously shown that as a map, they're a lot more comfortable. On that city side, we saw those aggressive maneuvers of trying to take canals, trying to be on the front foot. Out on Nuke, they looked out of touch. They looked as if they were just lost. Where here on Anubis, you're working on a map that's more comfortable. You're working on a map that gets played a lot more in the local scene as well. So comfortability has definitely been a difference from map 1 to map 2.
And you can just see in the way that they're playing, right? The counter-utility that they're bringing to the table, especially on that CT defensive half, how much they were able to counteract the executions that were coming in from the Aussies there. Like, they weren't seeing any of that sort of nature on Nuke. Remember the time after time they went into upper hit after upper hit, the times that they stormed that A bomb site and they weren't able to deal with it on the Indian side. In terms of star individuals that stood out over the course of this map, right? You mentioned your Wombat over on the Bad News Kangaroos and being the unlikely star, I guess you could say, the stand-in for that squad. We were looking so much at Finn and Revin over on God's Reign as being the guys that could take over. Right now, Fired Up is the man that's top fragging, and he had some very impactful rounds over the course of this map.
Well, the first one that comes to my mind straight away is that round where he comes in canals into electric. You get a double entry, 1 on B, 1 in mid. It's a 5v3. They're clearing the B site in the first half. And then Revan just kind of comes up through canals, gets the first pick, gets into electric, gets a second pick on the bomb side. And then, hang on a second, there's workability in the round. He gets a third KO and actually almost gets the fourth. It was the AWP of Revan that actually ended up taking it away from main. But it's always those key rounds, those key moments that's going to stick in people's minds. And Fired Up's played very well out here on Anubis.
Indeed he has. He's got decent backing, right? Barvi, not usually a fragger. He's actually at only a few frags behind him, so he's got that backing basis for them, which I guess you could say to a certain extent still applies for the Bad News Kangaroos, but maybe not so much of an extent, because you got players that are coming up at 14 kills in the likes of Finn as well, versus Addict and Hazza, who are a little bit lower on that board especially, right? I mean, I'm hoping that Addict is going to start to show that star prowess, because even though he is near the top end of the board, we haven't seen as much flashiness out of him as we have in the past couple of matches, so potentially some things to focus on when it comes to getting back into this map up. We are still waiting, of course, for things to get going.
And for the Bad News Kangaroos, it's just to kind of be in a position where they've had a lot more resistance against them. He probably would have finished Nuke at 13-1, and I mean, they're not silly in the idea that they think that they can just roll over them again. They'll know that there'll be more of a fight. They'll know that Anubis is not going to be an easy challenge, but probably got surprised more so. I mean, down 8 to 10, down to a slow start in the first half. It has been a tough battle here for the Aussies.
And some guys haven't really embraced the performances as they were in that first map. Obviously, we were talking about PZ and his impact over the course of the tournament overall, and actually he's one of those bottom-end players of the board for the Bad News Kangaroos. And I don't know if that's necessarily because maybe he did get complacent, or whether or not that's just more of a down to the fact that he's not as comfortable in this map as his other teammates were.
No, he didn't have the AWP. Like, when's he had the AWP, right? The money was never in a strong state. You're down 1-6. It's so difficult to pinpoint an AWPer and say, mate, why aren't you bringing impact? if you don't have the AWP. So that would be my counterpoint straight away for PZ.
Oh, he's only been on the M4 for this follow-up round as well. Again, they only had the 5 M4s to play with in that buyout, so I imagine that's going to stay the same as we head towards that next round when it does come to fruition. Maybe that big green might be a changing point, right? Kangaroos may need to get a couple of confident rounds, get him on the big green, and maybe that's when they can start to run away with their own right. So many things to consider in terms of how they outplay and outmaneuver God's Reign, the differences that they can make.
But one aspect that I would give a slight advantage to the Aussies in this scenario is because they've got more LAN experience, because they're more familiar with this environment, I actually think they're going to be more comfortable with tech delays. When you kind of get into map 2 of a consolidation final where maybe you have 5 minutes, 10 minutes of a break, they're going to be familiar with those sort of scenarios. You have a look at the God's Reign side, probably not as familiar. Haven't played as many LANs under their belt as a team, haven't played as many LANs as the individuals as well. So that's always one of those extra circumstances that that provides quite a lot in these kind of games. And another thing for the Aussies is, and I think Prace was even talking about it, they don't often get results against international competition. They don't often win against international teams at these events. So the idea that you've already made it into a top 3 position at minimum, that you're already a map up in the series, and you're close to contesting map number 2 to close into, that's got to be the fuel and the fire to say, mate, let's get this victory. Let's get to the grand final where we can face off against Aurora again.
Well, they aren't going to get it in the one-sided fashion, so that much is very much off the table for them. But certainly in the context of getting involved in this matchup, just have to focus on these last handful of rounds. And for them, the idea that obviously, you mentioned how they are probably more used to dealing with these problems than the likes of God's Reign. Remember, God's Reign did have 3 on the trot before that round had been stopped. So they've got that position where they're on the momentum break. They're in with that. They were there on the run-up. They were there with that round streak. So now you've got this tech pause. If you can't deal with it, then suddenly you might be looking at a situation where actually, yeah, Bad News Kangaroos do bounce back a little bit more fresh, and they do break that streak, and they do carry it forward and deny map point.
Well, there's no denying that God's Reign are in the better position. I mean, 10-8 up, economy's in a very good state. They've been able to keep quite a lot of players alive these last couple of rounds. T-side Anubis as well, mapped down in the series. I want to say that they're in the favoured position to close this out and to send it to that third map. But how many times do we say, Jay, that you might be the favourite? You might be in the stronger position but still not close out the game. This is where it's going to test the in-game leadership. This is where it's going to test the pressure of the players. And once more, that conversation of the lineup's very fresh. You're in a position where you should be closing it out. Now you've got to prove it. Now you've got to get that result up on the board and allow it to go to that third map decider.
Well, they are going to have more chances. You mentioned the economy state that they have there on the T side. $6,000, $5,000 on the majority of players. Only really Barbie had to invest in anything coming into this round. So there's cash to fall back on if they do concede one to the Bad News Kangaroos. And a round back to the CT favour and then responded to by God's Reign actually could be a bit more advantageous in terms of breaking that money state, especially if they get a very close round, 2 players alive, 1 player alive on the Bad News Kangaroos. Again, there are options for the God's Reign camp. So again, maybe not in control per se, but on the front foot.
And just knowing that you've got 3 out of the 5 players here on God's Reign that made the grand final of the last Skyesports Masters event, 2 of which of the original players on God's Reign of Finn and Revan that actually won the entire event. You've also got the likes of Fired Up that was on the other side, that he was actually playing with Revelant Esports. They want to try and get into that position again. And by looking at the scoreline, Jay, it probably tells us that God's Reign won the rifle round at 10-8 to get up 11-8.
Well then, that round did play out. I wasn't sure if it was getting cancelled because my scoreboard still has the 10-8 scoreline, but obviously you can see that things have worked out well for God's Reign side, so they have pulled it off and they have enabled themselves. It seems like 4 players stayed alive as well in that previous round for them, so just even more positivity, even more confidence. Bad News Kangaroos. Again, money not built, working off max loss bonus. Seeming like Brace is going to half buy into this round. They might just have to play for overtime here.
Now, I want to ask you, Jay, we've already seen map 1, we've already seen map 2. Who do you think our go-to guy in this entire day is going to be? Now, obviously, we've got Aurora up next. Is it maybe a player from Aurora? Is it maybe 1 player from God's Reign or 1 player from Bad News Kangaroos that you think is going to take over the spotlight?
Well, I mean, if you're including Aurora in that conversation, Deco's the obvious choice because of how well he's done. To keep it more like limited towards what we've seen between these two teams in terms of the server, in terms of the match we're seeing on right now. I mean, Addicts is another obvious choice for Bad News Kangaroos. He's second coming into today on the top frag leaderboard. But even again, your Wombat, you mentioned him and what he was able to do in this map up and the impact that he brought out. I don't think he's necessarily going to be the guy you rely on the most amount, but if he continues to hold himself to his high standard in this final day, then well, he could also turn the situation around for Bad News Kangaroos. He could be one that is a bit more of a sleeper hit here in this tournament.
Yeah, very true. And probably the best map performance that we've seen from him yet. Unfortunate that you're down at the scoreline deficit, that finally when you've been able to get some comfortability, that you've been able to put on a good showing, it doesn't seem as if it's going to be enough. That rifle round spoke a lot about just the importance of it. Now 11-8, down into an eco, it feels very, very unlikely that that we get pressed all the way to an overtime. We're not expecting a force buy here, so play for the eco, go down 8-12, and yeah, I would say that God's Reign are now in prime position to send it to map number 3.
Indeed, that rifle win, all important to them. Momentum continues, 4 rounds on the trot. Looking for number 5, which seems pretty likely. Have to play those Deagles to perfection if you're going to go in the half-buy round. That seems to be, again, what they're going to call out here. We'll see what the buy looks like in a moment's time. Specifics of it, of course. But yeah, God's Reign. Would you say that they're in control now?
I hate using in control because in MR12, you can't ever be in control. You just can't be. MR15? Sure, you can be. But MR12, I do not like that terminology because I never believe that you can be in control in the current meta of CS2.
Well, we have seen some silly comebacks, I'll give you that.
It's just the way the economy is. Like, that's all it is. The lack of rounds and the way the economy is. It's so difficult that even if you're up 5-1, 6-1, to still not close out games. And we've seen exactly what happened against Aurora, that you're up in a very strong position, and yet even closing out rounds to get to a half turn is so difficult with the economy. And that's why all the players are looking to try and see if Valve makes some adjustments.
A broader conversation to have in that respect in terms of the here and now. Round 20 is about to go live. Bad News Kangaroos. Thought they were going to force buy. Your Wombat brought in the FAMASs. He's going to bring out the Swag 7 instead. So close quarters combat, 5-7 and Deagle. Very, very light overall. Standardized splits in terms of the CT positions. 3 on B, 2 on A. Walk out towards A will come in from God's Reign. And as I may be hearing his footsteps, Flash turned into 5-7 fights at range, doesn't get away with Bubby.
They're still committing in. HE goes in fairly deep to get some chip damage, and there's a cancel for a Mona, God's Reign. Now, the reposition from PZ is going to come out. Unfortunately, he's only working with the USP, and so is Addict.
Both in the same position as well, but the resistance shown has cancelled the execution for God's Reign. Deagle looking to fight on Brace. Doesn't hit the headshot, tried to focus shot, but no. Fired up with a frag back now to 3 players on the CT basis. Molly sent deep onto the back of the site, onto the heaven entrance over at stairs. R2B2 starts the walkout, and they just have to play behind this utility here.
Yeah, clear out the majority of the bricks, get up here to the stairs and see nothing out to camera before that smoke comes in. 1 kill would be nice. Just to try and see if they can recover a rifle would be even better.
Slow approach to this. It's fired up, gets involved in mid. Your Wombat only able to do tag damage. Mag 7 does nothing, and the Bad News Kangaroos have got some bad news for you. 12-8, it is a map point for God's Reign.
Yeah, Finn making that entry path out there to camera. The USPs will try and see if they can siphon him in. R2B2 out on the site defensive too. Make sure that there is no silliness of maybe if there was a kit upgrade of just diving into the bomb site and trying to get onto that bomb. 4 to close. And right here for the Bad News Kangaroos, they are out of lifelines. This is the last one.
Lost bonus can at least bring weapons into the fold. But you are right, this is their last chance to contest on Anubis, and it has been a stellar turnaround from the Indian squad. The start of the half, the 6-1 advantage they had gained, nearly recovered by Bad News Kangaroos, even getting a lead at one point in the second half, but at T-side basis, working extremely well for God's Reign here. We're seeing the AWP on PZ, so need to see some impact from him. You mentioned his limitations in that weapon. M4s on 2 others. Addict should buy, Hazard should buy when he gets back in server. Have plenty of cash to try and do so, but it's all about the round itself.
And realistically, there's just going to be buy round after buy round for God's Reign. Obviously, it depends on circumstances of maybe players being alive and how many players surviving, if bomb plants are going down, those sort of examples. But looking at the amount of money in the reserve, we can be realistic here and say there's going to be a lot of gun rounds to close. And for Bad News Kangaroos, this is where the conversation goes back to a couple of those key rounds. I remember we were talking about it, the Finn triple out there in heaven, what that was able to do, the fired up retake of the triple out there in the canals, and sometimes you just need a couple of those X-Factor rounds, those couple of key rounds that maybe limit the scoreline of what it could be at the turn, maybe limit a bit of a round streak of any sort of comeback. Bad News Kangaroos can look at those 2 rounds, just those 2, out of everything that's been played out so far, and say if we just cleared out that heaven smoke, if we just denied fired up 1-for-1 out there in dark, it's 10-10. It's a completely different game. It's a completely different scoreline.
How much of a difference MR12 has made in terms of those impactful moments. Every round can count sometimes, and in this case, it feels like that might be the case for the Bad News Kangaroos. They still have a rifle round here. They still have to make up for. But it truly is going to be do or die from here on out. And you're right about God's Reign. They basically will be investing round after round. Unless Bad News Kangaroos really resist and just get all 5 casualties for like 2 or 3 in a row, then at that very end of regulation, then you can finally face a broken bye. Details and specifics and the way that God's Reign are playing in this map. Will that be reality for the Aussies? 5 in a row. God's Reign, 1 more to close.
A double AWP sequence too. This shows desperation here for Bad News Kangaroos. We know that they're very reluctant of going into a double AWP setup, but leaving Addict maybe in camera or out there to the back plat on A. Can they strike early? A lot of mid players from God's Reign.
Alex is the man to defend it. AWP heavily pressured. Molotovs will burn both individuals to the forward contact. You've got the M4 to hold back, and Addict indeed does get that kill, but Barbie with a responsive. They're still fighting out from mid against Hazza, who is now standing alone here ahead of the smoke. Backup is starting to rotate the position as PZ gets caught off on the AWP v AWP battle. Hazza continues to look for an engagement against the AK, but Finn takes him aback. The nade should take that trade from beyond contact, but even Finn backs away, and this allows anything more for them. 4-on-2 for God's Reign.
Revan's just waiting for another reposition, waiting for one of these B players to come out. R2B2 is in a position to catch off any aggressive maneuvers here in Canals.
Holding face, Barbie. Knife was pulled out for a moment, and your Wombat drops in with the bomb on his back and everything, looking to face further fight, but needs to be so wary about backstabs, and he also holds dominion over the entire round himself, faced upon swing back, double up secured. Finally, Revan gets involved from the back lines. Smokes are in the way, and it's all on Brace. 1-on-2.
Coming in quickly from Cave, trying to come out from CT. AWP is posted looking for the temple.
Brace catches his man, low HP against R2B2. Now to win against the AWP. He braces for impact. Hearing the footsteps, no info for the CT clutch. Smoke goes down to the bomb. Flashes are sent, but Revan holds his nerve and takes his shot for the map win. Our first 3-map series in the tournament as God's Reign reigns supreme.
It's going to be a great feeling. They're going to be very happy with that one because across the board, that's a good showing for God's Reign. maybe you can look at that second performance in the first half and say, oh, they didn't quite capitalize. My word, they capitalized in the second half. They put on a very consistent showing, and for God's reign, they've done exactly what they've come here to do better than yesterday. Take it to that third map decider.
And certainly do better than map number 1. Again, we had them written off the back of a 1-13 loss. Bad news, Kangaroos had all the momentum in the world, so they might be disappointed in the fact that they couldn't close as easily as they did on map number 1. We are forced to go to Inferno as God's reign stay alive in the tournament and throw a lot of things now, a lot of questions back up in the air for who can be that grand finalist team. Eventually, Dwayne, we do get the best of 3 that we wanted.
Indeed we do, and knowing that you've got 13-1 and then sort of another scoreline that it gets close to double digits but not close enough, it does make you think, could we realistically have the most competitive scoreline? Could we have the most competitive map for that decider? Well, for God's reign, they'll be making their HLTV debut on it with the new roster, so a chance to see what this new roster is going to be like at this level of competition on Inferno.
Throws a lot of unpredictability in the works, certainly for the Bad News Kangaroos in terms of preparation. They won't have much to work off of and going into that last map of this best of 3 of the lower bracket final. But for God's reign, look, they've done it. They've done extremely well here. And again, to touch on some of those star players, Fired Up probably takes the MVP, I'd imagine, in a moment's time because, look, he really got involved in that one. So many impactful rounds, so much frag power put down on the board for him. He was the difference maker for God's reign.
And it really is a shame that we didn't get to see that 10-8 scoreline rifle round, because that was one that changed the game. It was one that you get off of the back of it, you got to eco, you're down 8-12. Mate, there's not going to be that many more rounds that you can look at, especially with where the T-side economy was. So it shows for God's reign, they picked their moments, they won the key rounds, and they've done enough to be able to take their map victory in this series.
It's like you said a moment ago as well with the Kangaroos, right? The idea they're going to look some of those map ups or some of those round ups and look at the way that they played themselves, and maybe if we shut down that one player, maybe we could have been able to hold on for a little bit longer. Maybe we could have contested a 2-0. Maybe if we did win that last rifle round, maybe if we did go 10-9 or 9-10 rather against God's reign, and we were able to at least close that gap a little bit more, we could have sprung more momentum to our favor at the very tail end of the map. Maybe if we didn't let Fired Up get fired up, maybe if we didn't let those 3Ks go in for Finn, maybe we could have held on to something a little bit more in this match, because look, it is a lot closer than the scoreline initially indicates there for the Bad News Kangaroos. But again, the victory goes the way of the Indian squad, and that might again throw some little bits of mentality into the works, right? Because we talk about the idea that God's reign probably feeling a little bit disappointed off the back of that first map, and maybe a little bit tilted off the back of it. But no, coming into this map now, they're going to be feeling fired up.
Well, for the first time for God's reign, they can actually be happy with their performance. With the way the series went against Aurora, with how the opening map went here against the Aussies, they can legitimately finish Anubis and say, good work, guys. Like, we've actually come here and we've provided what we've been doing in the practice. We've provided what we've done with some of the results in the local scene. So this will be a real positive feeling, but the job's not done. And they've got to be realistic with themselves, saying, we've got a map up, we've sent it to the third, now let's go and close this.
Well, it will be that third map of Inferno as we head towards a short break and see whether God's reign can continue into the upper bracket finals, or to the grand finals of the tournament, I should say, whether the Kangaroos will hop their way into a rematch against Aurora. We return with map 3 Inferno after the break.
Incisive pass. Vinicius Junior and on to Bellingham.
Red Bull gives you wings.
पता नहीं तू जाती है बदलो दो साड़ी पहनने वाला क्या बट आई डोंट थिंक सो इतना आएगा कुछ है टाइम लिमिट नहीं ना भाई ये तो चल ही नहीं पाऊंगा यार विनर ना है क्या मेरा वेट पता मेरा पैर टाइट हो रहा है हम जीत गए ना क्या कंपटीशन चल रहा है क्या हाँ चल के दिखा इसमें लेट्स गो यस भाई अरे इसने मेरे को रोक दिया यार फिर भाई
ये धोती पहना साड़ी पहना है आई थिंक छोटा बैनर्जी ये दिया बड़े बैनर्जी से झूठ मत बोलो तो
अबे ये कर भाई
सच बोला तूने किया है ना हाँ तुमने
ये कर ये होगा बीटू कर अबे नहीं क्या हो कब किया
भाई तू सो जाता है
नहीं सोया हूँ
तेरा आवाज ही नहीं आता कि उसको पता है कौन सा सुन रहा है 4 बजे सुन रहा है बीटू तो इधर ही आसपास सोया था मैं तो हटता ही नहीं हूँ मैं तो जाता ही नहीं हूँ मेरा तो होता ही नहीं ये इमरजेंसी है
तू डिफॉल्ट करता है
नहीं इमरजेंसी है
होता है भाई मेरा तो एक बार हो गया तो इसके साथ क्लच चल रहा था भाई ऑफिशियल में ये कॉम्स कर रहा था मेरे लिए आई नेवर नो नेचुरल है हाँ होता है नेवर
ये तो नहीं कर सकता हूँ
ये सब रेवन करता है रेवन बोल रहा है कल करूंगा भाई
भाई ये बंदा कर सकता है बस इतना भरोसा है
कल देखता हूं बीटू मेरे पीछे नाइफ मारता है आई हैव अभी भाई
अबे भाई कहां पे हो डर गया हो गया इसका
आई थिंक ट्राई तो किया है बट पता नहीं सक्सेसफुल था
पग काउंट होता है पग
नहीं प्रोफेशनल बोला ना
प्रोफेशनल पग्स भी
प्रोफेशनल पग क्या होता है मैं बहुत प्रोफेशनल या पग अच्छा अटेम्प्ट तो किया है पता नहीं सक्सेसफुल था नहीं था कुछ
Unarmed?
I have never. I think Toby's got to turn this one around.
Surely. No?
Alright, man.
I've never. I'm locked in.
Maybe?
We're locked in.
I'm expecting some honest answers. Jody for sure.
100%.
You got it back to boys.
100%.
I don't know. I reckon I have.
I'd probably do it at least once a week.
Ooh.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. I reckon so.
Man's gotta go.
Oh. Yeah.
I play the games.
Yeah. I have.
I reckon I haven't. That's not
No,
true.
no way.
I think I remind him daily that his mic's muted.
It's like freeze time all the time.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah, that's fair.
I did the same.
Yeah.
No, probably not.
Gotta get the vocal cords ready, you know.
Sometimes you gotta hit it raw. So.
I'd say it's happened once. There was a time like my house had a blackout and then I had to drive to my brother's house and I'm playing on a coffee table. That's when I had no warm up.
Yeah.
It's gonna be you soon.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Yeah, not yet. Yeah, you gotta focus on yourself.
Always. Killed a teammate.
I hope it's that for everyone. We killed a teammate.
Two? I haven't? Yeah, I don't think I have. Probably have.
Killed a teammate.
Oh wait, in matchmaking. Yeah, definitely. For sure in matchmaking.
Yeah.
In a match?
Not like a pro game, but yeah.
No, pro game.
I've definitely team killed them.
If someone says they timed out, like,
Ninja?
in matchmaking.
That's hard.
Actual? Yeah. Remember like all the Sparkles videos? She just copied them.
Yeah,
He
Sparkles.
says, drop a smoke on bomb and instantly defuse the same one. Played against Cadian and Shiro in some pogs. I mean, we've scrimmed like almost all teams as well.
Yeah.
Played a few pogs with Ricky, so.
Hey, got
I've games in Australia like
I've been
6
eating
p.m., 7 p.m. So
Yeah, that's just starting dinner time.
I've been eating dumplings mid-round. Like.
Yeah. It's easy.
Toby.
Toby.
Yeah. Practice never stops for Toby. Ben. I reckon Ben. That's Ben. Yeah. Just have poise. Yeah. That's for pause.
Pause, yeah.
I think it's like, you should go to a toilet or something. Will.
That's
yeah,
Will.
Surely
100% that's Will.
Take a lot of toilet breaks.
Yeah.
Jared.
I have unfortunately had to buy a new mouse recently, so it's probably me. I'm probably the best fit for that.
Christian?
Yeah, Adam.
Christian.
Yeah, Adam. Yeah. Does it go all the way around? I'm just spinning.
We need to be down here. Up higher? I think this one's the winner. It looks a lot more like the picture.
It feels good, man. It feels good, right? Alright, yo. Dive right in, let's go. Do more than 15 to go. Let the rhythm take control. Let's go. My thoughts just won't leave me alone. Give me the strength to carry on. I wanna show you love. I wanna feel your touch. I want it all, but I keep running away. I wanna show you love. I want it all too much. I wish I could, but I just can't. I can't get over love. I wanna show you love. I wanna feel your touch. I want it all, but I keep running away. I wanna show you love. I want it all too much. I wish I could, but I just can't.
We have our first best of three that goes all three in the Skyesports Grandslam Inferno. We'll see who is going to be the team that faces against Aurora in the grand finals. Will it be Bad News Kangaroos or will it be God's Reign? On the one side, you have an opening map that was one-sided for the Aussies. On the other, though, a turnaround with some of the best showings we've seen from God's Reign in the tournament so far. It's all to play for now. And look, debut time as well for this five-man unit. You mentioned it before the break, Dwayne. We have yet to see these five players on God's Reign play in Inferno.
Yeah, we've only seen it locally out in the Indian qualifier, which was legitimately the last game. The best of five that they played. It was the third map in the series. All of the best of threes that we saw previously never got featured. And I look at the Bad News Kangaroos, there's a lot of good results under their belt. So while you can look at that 13-8 out on Anubis, I'm looking at the idea that at least we've seen it in the tournament already. We saw it against Aurora in that opening game. We've seen it against Greyhound 3 times recently, and we've also seen it against Rooster twice recently.
Well, we've talked so much about mental game over the course of this tournament, and especially for the boys over on God's Reign. The fact of the matter is that they must be feeling fantastic after that map, after that result, right? The idea that you've gone as well as you have done, not quite winning the MVP, unfortunately, because Bad News Kangaroos do take that on your wombat's part of things. But look, as a unit, they performed extremely well, and they were looking much more proficient on that second map than they have done throughout any of their other maps throughout the course of this one, minus maybe GRDX. Look, these guys are coming in with a bit of a hot streak into map 3, and I think that's going to be something that they're going to have to try and deal with the Kangaroos side.
The issue for me, Jay, is sample size. Now, we've kind of looked at the Bad News Kangaroos, and I want to say that we've seen 2 decent maps from them. We saw the opening map against Aurora. We've also seen the opening map of Nuke. Now, for God's Reign, they've only got this Anubis. So if we look at the sample size of the 2 best 3s between the 2, there's more to pull from for the Aussies.
Certainly so, right? So on a consistency basis, you have them beaten out over on the Aussie camp, right? They have the advantage in that respect. But Inferno, obviously, being that 3rd map in the pool, you mentioned some good results for the Kangaroos side, but they do get more losses than they do get wins. And especially when it comes to those higher-end teams within the Australian scene, Greyhound lost out to them at 16 to 13, 6 to 13, rather more specifically. Rooster, similar story at 9 to 13. Greyhound did get pushed to overtime at one point. So you've got some of the more recent matchups which haven't looked as fantastic for them, and maybe a bit more of a lull in their performances on this map.
Yeah, I would disagree to that, because for me, Greyhound's the #1 team in the region. And even though Bad News Kangaroos qualified through the Oceanic qualifier, Greyhound are the #1, and they're far and away stronger than the rest of the competition. So losses to Greyhound don't really mean a massive amount to me. What it shows is at least you're playing it against the best team in the region. And knowing that we're a lot more familiar with the form, I mean, I even remember that game against Aurora that we had a couple of days ago. Yes, it was only 4 rounds gained. Stylistically, I actually think they played a pretty good game. They had some solid defaults. They were working trades nicely. They were getting themselves in some good positions, some 3v3s, some 2v2s, but they struggled to close it out. Now, that's struggling to close out rounds against the #1 team in the tournament. So, for that reason, I still favor the Aussies quite heavily going into this final map decider.
Oh, certainly there's the intangible aspect as well on the other side of the board there for the God's Reign camp, right? They have been able to, they haven't played this map as a 5-man unit, so we don't know what they're going to expect, at least in terms of this competition, and as well as that, just in terms of them playing it at a high enough level. You mentioned the domestic result during the qualifier, which is one thing to pull from, but again, like, we don't know what kind of things they've been working on behind the scenes. We don't know whether or not there's any changes they would have made off the back of that one map, or if there's anything that they want to consider against the Kangaroos side. Because, I mean, look, you can talk about sample size for the results in this tournament so far. There's not much sample size to prepare against God's Reign on Inferno.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you'd probably expect that for the Bad News Kangaroos coming into this event, again, it's a lot easier to prep for 4 teams than it is for 8 or 16. So they would have prepped a couple of maps. They probably would have prepped maybe 3 to 4 maps out of all of these teams, and they could look at the local results and kind of look at what Aurora have been doing in Europe. They could have a look at what God's Reign were able to do in the Indian qualifier. So they'll still have an idea of what to expect out on Inferno, and honestly, the experience in a 3rd map decider is going to be something that edges them forward as well for me.
We talked about how the Kangaroos, of course, have played more lands on individual bases, and of course, as a team, they have that that extra sort of, you know, that extra little bit of depth as we have for the Australian scene. So, yeah, certainly they've been able to deal with that pressure a little bit more better than the likes of God's Reign. Especially you think about how map 1, it was a complete sort of collapse in terms of momentum. You could see how they weren't really feeling themselves as soon as they got put on the back foot. They weren't really able to compose themselves on the God's Reign camp. Whereas I feel like during that second map, even though Bad News Kangaroos were on that back foot, they were still able to keep their spirits high enough to make it at least look like a competitive scoreline, even if they did lose a massive streak towards the end of the map itself. So, yeah, there's, again, a lot of positives going towards the favour of Kangaroos. I'm not saying that they're the underdogs now as we go to map 3, but I'm thinking about God's Reign, and again, their momentum swing now off the back of that map recovery, now with a chance to really try and test the Aussies in the final map of the series. For the first time, we venture into deep territory in one of these best of 3s, and for God's Reign, the idea to prove something on the Indian stage, now the chance to go towards that grand final, it must be so tenable for them.
It's a realistic goal. It really is. Anytime you get into a 3rd map decider, you know that it's still on. Whether you're up against a very strong team or a very weak team, there's always a chance. And when you know that you're 1 map away from playing in a grand final in front of your home crowd, that would be one of the biggest success stories in the Indian scene so far this year, Jay. But they've got to make it happen. They've got to try and see if they can get one over.
All in it on the final map of this best of 3. God's Reign and Bad News Kangaroos for a spot in the grand finals of the Skyesports Grandslam. It all takes place on this final map. Let's kick it off with the pistol.
Your Wombat spotting out here to the half wall, already taking some contact, but no over-rotation from any of the A players. Double short and double long setup that's coming in.
Your Wombat will be about to face quite a hefty amount of presence from God's Reign. Got the utility in for the execution. The smoke's down from Finn. And the flashes on Barbie to support R2B2 in his entry attempts. Taps of those USPs are going to get a little bit more damage done towards your Wombat. PZ does catch one lurker out towards mid. Man advantage stays with the Kangaroos.
Brace has got a decent amount of util to set up this retake. He can probably get a new box molly down and a couple of flashes in. They are coming in quickly, and your Wombat has actually been able to survive that onslaught of aggression.
Back out towards spawn. He's still drawing them away from the bomb site, allowing the backstab to close in. All 4 of the remaining players now inbound from Banana. 4 on 4 as Barbie sees them crossing. They are on the bomb site directly, but need to try and find an advantage and keep them away from the bomb site and the plant position. Revan and R2B2, a couple of kills back in for them. Brace looks to engage. Sees so many back there towards the cross. Only 1 frag for Hazard's part, and now he's all that remains. Known towards the back lines. Taps a second headshot, needs that 3rd and that 4th kill, and starting to run out of time. He'll make it. Heavy casualties taken on the T-side line, but a pistol that is gained by God's Reign.
It's very unorthodox to come through from God's Reign. They get the bomb down. They know that it was obviously a heavy A setup because they only got contact of your Wombat, but to take construction with pretty much the entirety of the team meant that there was no one on the bomb site directly. And how different that round could have gone down. Obviously, they don't know just how much of a press there is in that backline straight. But if that smoke went down onto the bomb rather than coffins, I actually think they probably just could have got on it.
But it didn't, so they didn't. M4 of Addict, the hero rifle as part of the force by Bad News Kangaroos, trying to disallow the early starts for God's Reign. We saw how far they carried off that pistol in the previous map. Avoid that 6-1 score on the T-side line. Brace does manage to get away with your Wombat support. Very little damage at point blank for that Mac 10 on Finn. Galil does get recovered on Revan. HE's at the ready. Molotovs, however, driving them back.
Another HE out there to Banana. Further chip damage. Now, one aspect of this buy that has not been detected yet is this M4. You've got Addict playing towards the A site, out there to the balcony in the mini pit area. So if they can drive in a commitment to A, if they can drive in that T-side default to work towards A, that's where the majority of damage can spring.
We've got utility at the ready to block off the B site entries. They've not only 2 players to hold it, and decent enough timing on the smoke will stop God's Reign from going from early execution, continuing to put nades down there. Another smoke from your Wombat if required, and that might be the most pivotal part of this execution to counter it.
Now, this smoke will probably have to cancel them. If they commit in, this is going to be a deadly-looking crossfire.
Blocks up. Does block them. Smoke still sent towards Coffins and Cross, though the T's indicate they still want to hit that B bomb site. All 4 remaining players are here. Anti-flash held by your Wombat. Rotations are very slow from the Kangaroos camp, but 16 seconds. If one good kill goes to the right player at the right time, it could be everything for the Kangaroo camp. Your Wombat overwhelmed. Mac 10 goes down a Brace, who tries to make it a 3K! And then the last bullets in the magazine does get fired up. That's enough. Revan's out of time. And the Kangaroos have stolen it from the brink.
Can they drop him after time as well? They're going to try and swarm him, and yes, they do. What a force buy back there from the Aussies. That is a massive round. And you look at that entire situation, Jay, those repositions are already coming. That info play out to brackets is already forcing the rotations of the A players. All Brace really needs to do there is get one. Just stall for enough time to set up the retake, but he goes further. He wins the whole round by himself.
3 times further than he needed to. Wonderful stuff. Second round steal, the God's Reign, and now pushed onto a back foot for early momentum. Will not favour them unless the Tech 9s can respond all the same. It was a force buy in the previous. Can the force buy of the T's get right back on track? Default set in, fired up. Going to try and find Addict back here. His M4 ready for the boiler position. The crossfire holding with his teammate at long. Does spot, but doesn't get the kill.
A full Banana for the Bad News Kangaroos. So for God's Reigns, they have to either retake Banana or put more emphasis here in brackets. The issue is the util. One molly, one smoke, double flash. That is it. There is not a lot to get them into the bomb site.
Still got to work map control because they're playing into Banana. Using one of those flashes already to force Brace to fall back. Smoke comes in for him to suppress, try buy some time for the rotations of your Wombat. And Blind Spray's doing more damage. Meanwhile, Fired Up gets caught by Hazard in mid. 2 kills on that SMG from range. God's Reign lose out all manners of control.
And where do you go now? Do you go back into Banana? Do you go back into Brackets? Hazard's got a 3k into the round. PZ's at least trying to chip in, and they know exactly where both of the last 2 T-side players are.
Yeah, all info to play with on the CT basis. The bomb could still consider that rotate, but the HP is so low for God's Reign that even if they do decide to go for it, it might be easy enough for Brace to hold down the round itself. They will continue to commit into the A site. No matter which way you look at it, Kangaroos should lock in their second minus a couple of cheeky headshots. Addict, however, deals with Revan, sees the last. And Finn's caught off by your Wombat. Lead taken early by the Aussies.
And this is where, if you are the bad news Kangaroos, losing pistol, winning anti-force buy, you got to capitalize massively on this start. Start getting, what, 4, 5, 6 rounds in a row. Put that pressure back on your opposition immediately. And we know that mental game has been pressured quite frequently over the course of this tournament for God's Reign. So get them down in an uncomfortable stance. Make them desperate. Make them desperate like they were on map number 1 of Nuke.
Nothing to speak of in this round for them. Bad news, Kangaroos swing forward to that SMG. PZ, 1 pick, 2 picks not quite allowed. Finn on 6 points of health may still go down anyway soon enough. The SMG just looking for his money. Does get quite a fair amount. The M4 in support of Addict does face a little bit of aggression as God's Reign try and play pace against the CT forces. Try to think in a bomb plan out of this, but unlikely.
Very unlikely. And PC, the more money he farms up, the easier it's going to be for him to get onto the big green. How many more can he get? Him and Brace with the crossfire. The peppering of the bullets continuing to come in. And now the 2 Glocks are just hoping for just something. Maybe your Wombat in top Banana.
Doesn't find the first shot. Jump face from Finn. Try to spot exactly where he is. Just cost him his life anyway. And Revan, Glock in hand versus 5. Should be found no matter what he tries to do. Again, just look for at least 1 exit. The best thing you can realistically ask for, but even that's too far gone. Your Wombat maintains all 5 alive for the Kangaroos side. Damage will not compound for the T's. They will be up to buy.
And it's nice to see more Australians involved in the Skyesports circuit. Again, we had a couple of players that were involved in the regular season last time around, in last year. Roffelco and your Wombat playing on Enigma Gaming. Kingfisher was the coach there, also coached the Greyhound boys for a portion of time. And Gump, one of the other Aussie players, was actually in the final for Revelant Gaming.
Chance to make it to the final here in the Grand Slam. And 1 map away from doing so. God's Reign posting up as much resistance as they can feasibly manage. Hazard damaged up in the early contact. These rifles able to force him down at low HP. Continue with the Brackets press. They won't be acting all that quickly just yet, but they will establish long control here.
And nice to see that Hazard didn't get baited to drop that smoke in. Reposition, get on the front foot. Oh, timing's excellent.
Flashbang's a bit miscommunicated though, and Raw Wombat's going to fall alongside Hazard. Suddenly 1 player left in at pit. Addict trying to involve himself as best as he can as Revan does get caught off. He sees a second player. They swing together, deal with him. Brace comes back with one of his own, but low HP in that long challenge. R2B2 is going to be there to deal with him at 100. Brace and PZ swapping weapons back and forth, but is there a retake in this one?
And maybe if a kill presents itself, but it seems unlikely. R2B2 is trying to see if he can work a duel out here behind the moto smoke. Now, the bomb is in CT hands at long. It's the issue with the man advantage.
Brace does bring it back to a 2v2, though. There's a shot back. Hiding in Cubby should be aware of that for the T-side forces. They don't even have a HE or a Molotov they can put down there. PZ crossfire, swings at the right moment, sees his man. That's a little bit awkward on that face, though. Now being known, a chance available if they can isolate that pick back a Cubby. Indeed they can, but PZ fires back on, fired up, gets caught jumping, hitting the ceiling. And that gives a kill back to the God's Reign side that secures the round, the second on their board.
And that actually looked as if it was a high-pressure scenario there for PZ. Rather than just having guns up and committing to the fight, already knowing that you're able to catch him off out to Moto, tried to get in a position where he could retreat, maybe get out to the archers and slow that round down. But just getting caught in the geometry. That round was a lot closer than it looked like it was going to be. God's Reign make it 2, and now both teams are insanely close to resetting one another.
Broken buys for the Kangaroos side, but your Wombat's got that M4 straight in against Finn, starts things off, and blind sprays on Bavi will follow suit to a 5-on-3.
20 seconds, Jay, is all that it took, and already Addict's heard this reposition from Revan.
He's hearing him reposition on Addict, though. Fired up, also looking in from long, trying to catch the player off. Timing against the CT squad. Oh, your Wombat's seen Revan. He turns back, though, as he finds Addict. It's back to a 3-on-3 again.
And now looking to try and put emphasis on that B-split. There's a lurk out from the apartments, too. Revan's done heaps in this round, just in distraction. Fired up, catches a good timing, struggles with that first kill. But PZ out there with the AWP is undetected.
He's going to hide and wait, I think. Did he get... No, Fired Up was just dropping off. AWP still hunting for the man, the scope. The Molotov will now be catching him off guard. Low HP, cagged up on to PZ, but not the kill for Fired Up. He goes back against Embrace. Now just has to save here, 1-on-3, no retake.
A fantastic round from Revan, because you look at the start, your Wombat probably should have won that round. 20 seconds, double kill in there to Banana. You need some X Factor to return that. And the reposition out to the Archers to get into that backstab. Bad news, Kangaroos just get caught on an awkward timing. They knew that he was coming in from Library, but couldn't do anything about it. Too high impactful kills have now tied up the scoreline.
Three apiece, and you mentioned the reset against the Kangaroos camp. Both teams are up for one in this round. It goes the way of God's Reign, so... 2 in a row, lost bonus, not that well defined for the Aussies. That Galil should be the only real weapon that they have in this next buy. Harsher eco outside of it.
And that's why getting these determining key rounds is so vital. There for the Bad News Kangaroos, let's just say you close down a 5v3 round, you're not giving them a bump up, mate, you're looking at a 5-2 scoreline. Now, you're looking at actually giving the lead to your opposition. One important round can make all the difference in a scoreline and the result of a map.
I think your Wombat started off so well out down Banana and just decimated the players that faced him, and that, in theory, could have been the round itself, but one insertion, one player that couldn't be dealt with. It goes the way of God's Reign instead. This round should do the same as Brace's only rifle was dealt with instantly by R2B2.
And for God's Reign, looking to stabilize, keeping mass players alive. Already spotting out one there towards long, Hazard being dealt with. The other 2 A players defensively on the bomb site.
Only pistols to work with them. Addict and his 5.7 especially. The last slim hope that Kangaroos have to hold on to damage, let alone a round.
And imagine being Aurora. You probably watch map 1 and go, oh yeah, we're playing the Aussies. You watch map 2 and you go, oh, it might go either way. You watch map 3 and you go, oh, hang on a second, we might be playing God's Reign. Like, it's just one of those accounts, right, where it keeps going back and forth on who looks like they're going to take the series.
Well, no decisions made yet, except for in terms of the lead. God's Reign will take that.
I will say 4-3 on a scoreline on T-side Inferno is pretty good. And something that adds a bit more context at home is that God's Reign actually won the knife round and chose to start on T-side. That's very unorthodox. The only map in the current pool that we see teams opting to start on T-side is Anubis. Other than that, it is CT basis the whole way.
Trick or two up their sleeve, and God's Reign really worked with this economy state of the Kangaroos, able to gain control of the scoreline above all else, and now look to try and decimate the next buy up of the Kangaroos camp with the AK of R2B2 ready against Addict. Dropped in apartments, your Wombat marked by Revan, very edge of the smoke shot for the AWPer, and the SMG Embrace trying to get back something, does catch Revan in the end, but that's as far as it will go. PZ even flanked by the once again pop out of the apartments. Not a full execution right there, but just the walk contact, kill found, and Bad News Kangaroos are getting outplayed, outpositioned here on Inferno.
But this is massively concerning. This is a God's Reign side that's working with a lot of strong opening picks in the gun rounds right there from Addict, getting out to maybe not hearing that jump up. I mean, again, it can sometimes be difficult to hear all of those small sound cues on LAN in comparison to online. But just not being ready for that play in bedroom. And that round basically depicted, as soon as Addict fell, it just crumbled, didn't it? The kills to Banana, the walkout from the apartments to deal with the short player too. And it could be an entire map like that one good kill, one important position on a lurk just ends the round, just closes it entirely.
It's happened a couple times so far in this. Fired up. Living up to his namesake here. Fifth on the board of God's Reign. Bad news, Kangaroos. He's starting to build up the loss bonus, but the concern is, of course, the rounds themselves, and they're not coming through for the Aussies here. And God's Reign have sprung into life off the back of that second map and carrying that performance forward into the third. Moment to discuss things here for the Bad News Kangaroos. Needs to counter this soon.
And there is every sort of headline, every sort of point that coming into this best 3 points the way of the Aussies to take this victory. But the one caveat is on the day performance. There's some of that X factor, some of that here and now. And for God's Reign, 4 in the trot, another eco to present, they are in a driving position to get into this grand final.
Looking to hit minimum 6. Upgrade pistols and SMG on Brace's part, the only true automatic for the CT side. And placed himself to the B defense alongside your Wombat. These two players did work in the pistol to maintain control of the starting round for the Kangaroos camp, but they're both mowed down by Finn and his spray through the smoke. Your Wombat falls to the headshot, and that is round done already.
Individually, we're seeing some impactful moments from players. Yes, you can look at this round as only being anti-eco, but Finn controlling the spray, getting 2 kills, opening up B. Fired up, going to get a freebie as well. God's Reign will pretty much disallow the majority of upgrades to be brought into the next rounds.
At least they'll get the rifles back on the Kangaroos camp. Very little damage done to God's Reign. Now these guys have got the economy built just like they did over on the second map, just like they had that dominion over the Aussies and disallowed any real chances to reset them. Now, towards the tail end of the half, it pretty much is guaranteed they'll have an investment round. Buys will feature the M4s and the AWP for PZ. Someone's going to find impact.
The Bad News Kangaroos know that they need to act in quickly. God's Reign bringing quite a bit of early pace out to second mid, and Revan is waiting for an opening pick out there to Car, but nothing presents.
Deep Smoke's come back over at Banana to try siphon off the T side line. Revan is going to burn a little bit, but stay away with the smokes and rejoin his teammates now as they work the mid play.
Hazard's waiting to see if there's an exploitation behind this smoke, just jiggling down. He's got a HE and an incendiary he can put out to long.
Gets it out to long immediately. AK looks to engage for R2B2. Hazard gets the pick, but Addict is overwhelmed. Your Wombat and now Ko now need to rotate because they did heavily stack the B bomb site. With that pit player falling, it'll have to be a 4v4 retake.
Now Hazard's attention still drawn out here to bracket, still thinking and maintaining their lurk out there. Fired up. Playing behind the smoke, just wasting time, and it's a safe call once more. God's Reign, hey, I actually think they're going to get 8 or more rounds in this first half, which is a serious scoreline.
Yeah, the Kangaroos. Not a good start for them. Half advantage gained by the T's. Keep the guns in for the buy in the next. Get Addict back on a rifle, the AWP and the M4s. Wouldn't be hunted majorly aggressive. I mean, I wouldn't blame God's Reign to go for a hunt here because they have so much money in the bank. They will start to form up and start looking in at CT spawn, especially where Hazard does get caught for some damage. Players also making their way in from Banana. We'll see how many rifles will stay in off the back of this hunt. But yeah, very quickly throwing in the towel there, and it starts to get a little bit concerning because we saw how quickly the God's Reign side were throwing in the towel on their retakes on Nuke. might allow a number of rounds to go the way of the Indian squad.
Yeah, it's more than concerning. I think this game is done. I actually don't think Bad News Kangaroos have got what it takes to recover this. And we can kind of go down the path of how rare it is on LAN to get a 13-1 scoreline and not win a best-of-3. That does not happen very often. If you put up that kind of result, if you put up that kind of scoreline, you either close in 2 or you close in the last map decider. And looking at the way that Map 2 of Anubis and Map 3 of Inferno has transpired, there is not a lot of belief right now for the Aussies.
First half advantage taken in both these last 2 maps, and Bad News Kangaroos, the best they can ask for is trying to recover to a 5th, just like they did on Anubis, and just like they couldn't convert off the back of it, even when they did succeed. God's Reign know what's going on here. Flash is sent, HE's sending Finn into contact in mid, fired up, does get started. R2B2 following off of Addict's trade back, and he also gets caught in second. Overwhelming aggressive phase from the Kangaroos, and God's Reign still come out on top.
Individually, they've been the better players out here on Inferno. They've been making entry kills happen. We've seen the Aussies struggle with the trades. That time around, they changed the approach completely. They go hyper-aggressive into second mid, look to try and change up the protocol, and it's just an instant shutdown. Fired up, does at least drop, and R2B2 does as well, but this is another save call. This is an 8th for God's Reign.
No way your Wombat wins this clutch. Bomb will go down. He will not act towards it in the apartments. He will hold on to that AK. Revan going for the hunt, and if he takes this man out, there will truly be nothing to speak of for the Kangaroos. I mean, the loss bonus will build up. I don't know what the rest of the economy state looks like at the moment with the savings. I guess they will have solid enough buy with the amount of money they theoretically should have.
Yeah, they didn't invest all the way. Hasn't force ball all the way down just because of the loss bonus, but it was a lighter investment.
I don't know how many rifles ended up getting rebought at the tail end of that round, but at least they have this extra punch.
Oh, they'll be able to full buy next round. Yeah, they'll be comfortable for sure. They'll even have an AWP out if they want it.
The key concerning numbers is on the scoreboard, though. God's Reign up to 8. Things still don't look any better for the Aussies, and I don't really know what else to say other than that here, Dweg.
Well, for God's Reign, they've individually outclassed them out here on Inferno. Been very impressed by the entry attempts. The kill distribution across the board has shown a lot of impact. Aggressive approaches from God's Reign have been warranting opening kills within the first 30 seconds the majority of these rounds.
Wombat again trying to aggress down Banana, get Revan with Brace's support. Damage done to Barbie and Finn, and finally some confidence feeling like it's going to go the way of the CT Forces, but fired up. He's still fragging on the A. Bomb side! He's opened it up with Addict dropping. PZ forced to respond, but now needs backup because they're closing in on his position. They know he's playing somewhere on the bomb site, but R2B2 applies the brakes.
Try and smoke off Moto and separate yourself between the 1CT and the bomb site. Brace has to counteract that and get on the front side.
Swing forward, Barbie's caught Brace, and now PZ stands still alone to the defensive, checked upon by the boxes. R2B2 has left it all in the hands of your Wombat. Saved the AK in the previous round, now needs to apply it to the clutch in this one. They don't suspect he's coming from mid, they don't suspect that it's a short play, but he's seen that man, taps the head. Last player of Finn, 9 points of health, 1 versus 1. He needs the perfect headshot to hold this together for God's Reign. And your Wombat, does he know about that? He certainly will now. Clutches it just about for the Kangaroos camp. Still no confidence as they close out the half with an 8-4 scoreline for God's Reign.
And reflecting back on Anubis, especially that first half, Jay, we can both say there was a lot of competitive rounds. There was a lot of rounds there where maybe if a few kills go differently, it's a half advantage that goes the way of the Aussies. You can't say that here to Inferno. They have been simply pumped. And 4 rounds is a recovery to a 1v2 for your Wombat. God's Reign moving into the second half are in prime position for the grand final.
Yeah, Bad News Kangaroos better have an incredible T-side. Because at this point, very few options, very few avenues in which you can see Kangaroos recovering this. pistol pretty much required here on the T side, seeing that one player jumping up into the apartment's face. The bomb will break away from the main T side force. Meanwhile, flashes in to try and contest Banana. Did not see Addict, and they won't overly face. Mid-fight as well from Brace and fired up. Sees that bomb again, fight back from Addict. Does damage. Revan is first to fall.
And putting pace towards A. Addict to try and cut some rotations off towards Banana.
Does get a kill on R2B2 and fired up. Also drops on Hazard's part. A site now open for business. The bomb should be secured. A 5-on-2 for the Kangaroos. Far better in this pistol than they have had so far in this map up. But it was the pistol confidence that set them up to initially get their first round. It was responded to very quickly by God's Reign. Falling back on Finn's part of things is Julies. Can't win this clutch. Will be hunted back by the Aussies as they claim survival for the time being.
And that's got to be a good feeling there. You've just responded with a 1v2 rifle round clutch victory from your Wombat. You've come into the second half, you're on edge, and you've won a very clean pistol round. One that felt quite comfortable. You get opening kills to A. The round's pretty much over. Addict is cutting the majority of rotates off from logs. Now, God's Reign have not liked a lot of force buying over the course of this tournament. So even though we've seen success from them in the lighter buys, they're happy to get onto the rifles. They're happy to give the respect.
Mac 10s, Galils, and an AK on Hazard's part. Bomb the cash, and hopefully not drop to another stacked up CT side. We saw it nearly come down to losing out on the Kangaroo squad in the second map. The SMGs will play point on contact. Mac 10 of PZ does get involved. Revan first to fall.
And for Bad News Kangaroos, a lot of emphasis is going to be on them in their rifle rounds. You look at that first half, they won the anti-force buy, the anti-eco, and then the eco. So you actually didn't come away with a huge amount. It was that last round of the half in regulation that was the only rifle round they won.
Finn does catch one player off guard. They do back away with the notion that there might be a stack in play here. Fired up. Pistol pulled out. Hearing the footsteps will start to call him back. I will not be able to cut the bomb off realistically. Can he find at least one pick? You're going to let them all pass. He might even find the flank against him, though. He is checked by Addict, and he just holds on to the only chance that God's Reign had.
And the issue is that when you've got a Zeus and maybe instead of a P250, you have to play that round so carefully with the timings. You don't want to get too aggressive. You don't want to lose that timing. But, I mean, overall, for God's Reign, your main priority is the next round. So you've got yourself a Mac 10. You can throw yourself into the bomb site to make it more expensive. I'll be surprised if that Mac 10 gets used. I think it will just get thrown away and they'll invest into a rifle.
Put that hurt on the Kangaroos camp and just take a confident one that sets you up for your 9th and possibly most likely your 10th. It's 6 to the board of the Aussies though. Once again trying to close the gap to God's Reign. Within 2 of the CT lead. Let's see what the buy looks like.
And this is where we have to be realistic with ourselves, Jay, and tell the narrative that while the scoreline might be close, this game has not been close in this last map. 3-1 from the start in the first half, and 2-0 from the start in the second half. I need to see probably 2, maybe 3 gun rounds to have more faith, to have a little bit more hope in the Aussies. At least they've got the scoreline in their favour. At least it's not a position where it's too far away to start initiating a comeback. This opening rifle round, God's Reign know. We win this and we put all of the pressure back on our opposition. Oh, there's Kenzie, man.
Yeah, scoping out the competition.
Yeah, he's having a look.
Wants to see what's going on.
Oh, no, he's not. He's like, whatever, man. We'll just beat whoever comes and faces us.
It's good, mate. He's taking notes. He's taking notes,
yeah,
right?
Yes, that's exactly what he's doing.
He's texting his team, just like, guys, this is what we need to do. This is how we're going to beat them.
Yeah, this is how many rounds we lost to them last time. Let's try and half that.
Buys do return from God's Reign. They do stick with the Mac 10 on R2B2, actually, but 2 from us is also involved in this. That one upgrade, of course, the one player that fell down. I'll keep the bonus weapons on the Bad News Kangaroos. Hazard taking very early damage here.
Finn is quite wide up onto the exposed angle into brackets, getting an incendiary down there when the smoke clears. Now, because the players moved away, no ticks are going to be heard. This is shaping up to be a slight apps pop, or at least an extension from 2.
Timing on a smoke, well placed. Holds them for the time being. Still 3 players on defense. Molotovs will force Finn out of his cubby corner. He will spray back. Was revealing himself in the 60-second marker. Kangaroos formulate their execution. Now there's 4 players to deal with.
Well, it's surprising they left the MAC-10 alone out on B. Try and make an info prod out here to long and go 1 for 1.
Revan does make it 2 for 1 on the other side of the site as Hazard drops. Advantage taken. Brace now trying to see if he can win a close quarters fight. It's fired up, gets involved over at Pit. Your Wombat dealt with. Brace drops. An Addict is all that remains now in the clutch. Bomb can get recovered, but the CTs have seen it. Ready for the backstab. R2B2 does get isolated. That's 1 frag to gain. Now needs to get 2 more.
Has to try and see if he can split these CTs. Out here towards long. Barbie drops an Addict. Oh, gets so close. So damn close to clutching that 1v3. Oh my. Okay, let's stabilize.
Holy cow. Oh, okay. Damn near coming together for the CT side. It does come together for God's Reign for Bad News Kangaroos. Bonus weapons, at least got 4 casualties. Playing the long game here, they need to follow it up. They have AKs on 4 players. It's a better buy than the 3 rifles brought in by God's Reign and 2 SMGs to boot. Find the reset, decimate the CT forces, close the gap. That is the objective. Round 16 is a swing.
Have not over-rotated a 3rd player towards this B site yet. Thinking about Revan in a scenario, if they keep pressuring out to the brackets, that he can maneuver over. Brace is taking a lot of space. They're going to try and act off of this. They might have to cancel because of the resmoke, though.
Don't commit from it. R2B2 holding a very unorthodox angle, but it might work if they walk through the smoke. They're not doing that here on the Kangaroos. Your Wombat hard the rotation of Revan. Can he find the players over at quad? Vertical crossfire might come down against him. Indeed, he does fall. And now the T's will have to act off the back of that execution, counteracted by flashes and Molotovs. Tech9 faces the AK of Hazard, gets involved against one Abavi. R2B2 flash blinded, needs to hide back at New Box, needs to isolate 1 or 2 of these picks, doesn't get past the first man of Addict, and sprays of the firing squad. Keeps Revan at bay. Plant secured. Man advantage for the post plant.
It feels uncomfortable to go into the retake here. Brace up close, already hearing the footstep.
Oh, Revan gets the kill against him, though, with a quick swing back. 3-on-3 has been gained. Hazard deals with fired up, turns back towards the low HP player of the CT side. Known about the second man, also revealed with those M4 taps. Burst through, kill found. Finn left alone in the round. Looking for exits at best here. Do the damage to the Bad News Kangaroos, because God's Reign need to escape with this rifle. An all-important one won by the Aussies.
And it's the smallest mistake from the in-game leader of God's Reign that actually cost them that round. They've got 3 on B, they've got the right read, they've got the man advantage, and he times that aggressive play behind the coffin smoke too late. He needed to get into the bomb site earlier. If he wanted to reposition out towards dark or maybe get behind the fountain, he's got to come through that smoke earlier. He could see that one entry towards a coffin smoke. That was it. That's what collapsed the bomb site.
And no major force back from God's Reign. Bad News Kangaroos on to try and take 8. Lifelines have been gained still. Establish their economy state by not dropping any players here. Ideally, Revan is the first man to drop to Hazard. Starting up for the Galils, the pistol players over on the B-bomb site. We'll try and isolate players and we'll try and take some decent fights and coordination. Just the firepower isn't there, and their weapon advantage favours Bad News Kangaroos. Brace catching R2. Barbie now joined by Finn, the only M4.
And doesn't this at least demonstrate how pivotal that 1v3 attempt was from Addict? If he gets in the 1v3 and gets no more, and 3 players stay alive, the economy situation is completely different. That 1v3 attempt has now shaped up a few rounds of progression, a few rounds to come closer to tying up the scoreline.
4 players fell in that round and proved the point right there Not quite sure where Bubby was, but again, that USP unable to do much. No damage taken on the Kangaroos camp. Plant secured. And Finn and Fired Up know that they've got nothing left in this one. Hold on to the M4. Give number 8 over to the Aussies.
And this is the pressure of the scoreline starting to come into a fold. Yeah, we can talk about the success of rifle rounds all we want. When you're up 8-3, and then the scoreline is only 1, there is a lot of pressure on your back to be able to hold that lead, to be able to keep performing and not allow Bad News Kangaroos into this map and into a comeback on the T side. PZ's trying to clear out the majority of brackets, try and see if he can drop at least that saved in M4. That work in a Finn, but seems unlikely. Bad News Kangaroos up to 8.
Terrorists win.
1 to the good on God's Reign. Chance to buy, chance to remount an effort against the Aussies. Significant first half for God's Reign again. Playing the better game than the attacking side, but Bad News Kangaroos still look to pressure with the economy situation that they found themselves in. They can buy for the next, and God's Reign may well struggle. Look at the damage put out by their utility though. Hazard and Brace almost killed off in an instant.
Yeah, they're still going to commit off of the back of it. Start prodding out there to top Banana. Retaking Flash from R2B2. He wants to keep fighting.
Molotov burns Addict in the end. Brace and Hazard. Hazard goes down, low HP for him. PZ needs to find a trade back here. Starting to aggress, pre-firing angles, but R2B2 is nowhere to be seen. He gets away. What a start for God's Reign.
Well, as soon as they see that contact of top Banana, they know that it's heavy Banana. So you know yourselves, you would have done a lot of utility damage. So get in there, try and threaten. Now there's a bit of a walk attempt and a lurk opportunity for your Wombat in the apartments. The issue is, this is so tough to recover because we can say that this is a 2v5. I mean, realistically, what is Brace going to be able to do on 2 points of health?
Needs to be the best player in the world in round 18 with the fastest reactions and the perfect aim to the headshot. PZ goes down and it gets even worse for him. Last 2 will group up. Bomb on the back of Brace could be denied very quickly by the 2 pit players. They will have to try and deal with. Fired Up. Looking to frag away. Indeed finds Brace. Transfer against your Wombat makes it look simple. Only player to fall, and that's fine for FAMAS. 10 to the board of God's Reign. The Kangaroos face resistance in the rifles once again.
And Fired Up actually had the lowest KD ratio, ADR, and rating in that series versus Aurora. Went 15 kills and 28 deaths and averaged a 0.64 rating. Check out what he's done in this series. Map number 2, probably the MVP. Map number 3, he's now leading the charge. He's putting up impact again.
Difference makers. God's Reign's Cam need to sign so he can find someone on the Bad News Kangaroos for Addict. Has played some stellar maps in this tournament, but first casualty in this round and not leading the charge for the Kangaroos camp. Hazard is. He's trying to walk his way up short, get a contact kill against the player in apartments. Finn not quite ready for him. Hazard can get the pick back, but Finn very fast to trade.
A very good timing there from Hazard to start that walk forward. AWP does get baited. Your Wombat was the only player seen in there from brackets, but it has pulled a slight rotation. The in-game leader of Barbie is actually deep in Speedway and CT. He's not on B directly.
Smokes to cross will, of course, draw attention back of the rotations here. So Bubby is now joined by Revan and his AWP. Molotovs to backside. They're so wary of the central side defensive. Plant needs to be secured. Boost up. Is Barbie going to get detected here? Could deny the Plant being covered off. He still lines up his double. And your Wombat needs to clutch this one because God's Reign are on to take the map in the series with this victory right here. 2 kills found. 3rd player seen. Is he burst back? 1v1 now. Your Wombat. Is he about to have play of the tournament right here? No! Finn finishes him off, and God's Reign will convert 11.
Oh, that's another close round. That's another massive what-if moment. We saw a narrow 1v3 miss from Addict only a handful of rounds ago, and now we've seen a near-miss 1v4. Oh, your Wombat would have felt as if that round was on.
Oh man, Kangaroos. So many of those what ifs over the course of the last 2 maps for them, and just
well, this should be the same scoreline as what happened last map, no?
Yeah, most likely. I mean, bad news, Kangaroos don't have the cash to buy in. No follow-up investment. Maybe they'll consider the half buy again. I mean, maybe they can consider the forced buy and try to deny the map point there from them, but it carries with such a risk.
I think a hero rifle at most. I think it should be a very light round. I know one person's got a decent economy float, so if they want to go hero, Galil, maybe get that on the likes of Hazard just to create something. But for God's Reign, this is a very strong couple of rounds in a row for them, and there's no denying that these rounds have been very close. They've been nail-biting.
Indeed.
But you look at the scoreline, you look at where the economy is, every single day of the week, you'd want to be in this position for God's Reign.
Leading by 3, bolstered up by a very confident opening half. Bad news, Kangaroos could have really springboarded some return off the back of that clutch of your Wombat, had it under his back pocket. But in a 1-on-4, and many times they've been in 1vx situations which they just can't seem to close there for the Kangaroos camp. Confidence needs to return from somewhere else, and more down to the team play aspect to this. 2 more rounds in it for God's Reign to take the grand final spot. And to think as well, Dwayne, like 13-1 at the start of the series for the Kangaroos squad. Like, they really should have been poised to take this very easily, but the tenacity, the potential, and the realization of God's Reign in the second and third maps, something to behold for them.
Indeed it is. It's underwhelming from the Aussie perspective. There's no denying that. Again, you come into this series knowing that you're the much stronger team. You've got more experience. The team's been together longer. And that you're familiar with these contexts. And come in with a map number 1 scoreline, which is just so sound, so comfortable. Didn't even sweat the majority of rounds. But for God's Reign, this is a couple of rounds to close for the organization perspective, get yourself into another Skyesports Grand Final. You did it with local competition last time. You did it with a different variation of the roster. Now, you would feel as if this is even more successful if it happens. You've done it against international teams. You haven't done it against the local Indian teams.
The Kangaroos are walking into this series with favoritism because of what they did against Aurora, because of the nature of the depth of their scene. A massive upset for God's Reign. But one that feels so tangible right now. Kangaroos haven't committed to the buy yet. They can still refund the force back from Brace, and your Wombat has gone in with the Galil as well. And the tech pool's involved. It does give a little bit of time to rethink things if they want to do that. I mentioned the potential of most likely just the hero rifle alone. Might be the smarter call to make in the overall here for the Kangaroos camp. Whatever call they make, it needs to be played to perfection, because it is squeaky bum time, as we say.
And for bad news Kangaroos, unfortunately, there hasn't been that player that's taken over on a final map decider when it is necessary. When you look at the way the rounds have gone, when you reflect on the scoreline, just knowing that the kill distribution spread has been fairly even. There hasn't been that one guy that's been making rounds happen. Very different to someone like Fired Up. I know you can compare 16 kills for Hazard and 17 for Fired Up, but you have to compare the key rounds of the rifles and the difference makers. And just reflection again, Jay, on some of those moments. That 5v3 that your Wombat was able to get in Banana. That multi-frag that Revan was able to respond by getting the library player and cutting the rotate in from CT. There's going to be a lot of rounds in this best of 3. Probably more so a map 2 and map 3 from both teams that you reflect on and say, what if? If maybe the 1v3 had come through from Addict, if the 1v4 had come through for your Wombat, if that 1v2 didn't occur from your Wombat to close out the first half, you are always going to get rounds like that. Always reflections on the what ifs.
Those will come to the fold when the dust has settled. Still in contest, of course, right now, and only a couple more rounds in it for the Bad News Kangaroos. God's Reign poised to take this. Pressure against the Aussies do bring out the full-on force. They are not going to try for overtime. They're going to stop this here and now. It is a massive risk, but one that may need to be taken for them. 3 to make up, 2 to the W. It's game time.
A HE down there to bottom mid. Very passive. No pace whatsoever here for the Bad News Kangaroos. Anticipating that there could have been some early downwards of the mid play in from brackets. A lot of counter utility to Banana.
Flash is sent, R2B2 looking on. Trying to engage alongside Barbie, the aggressive faces, and this time Bad News Kangaroos have evaded that Banana challenge. Lost so much HP and kills as a result of the utility earlier on. We'll group up as the smoke starts to fade, but can they challenge these two?
And the counter flash of at least the pre is going to be everything. Tech9 up close, needs to find that entry, and Hazard does.
R2B2 down. Barbie now holds with the AKs. Rotations get called back from the CT side. Will they continue pressing on Bad News Kangaroos? Smokes are in the way, so they stall it out. But footsteps were heard by the captain. He's waiting. He's holding out for something more. He does find Addict in the end to a 4 versus 4. Blind sprays the teams to try and act out the edge of the smoke. But that presence that Barbie is holding may have cancelled the execution.
That's a strong decision there from Barbie. Back off. Get that first kill. Don't look to engage into more. Double up. Get a boost out there. Resmoke can come down towards CT. They have to commit.
Coffins and Cross locked out. Rotations to the 2 CT players will be blocked from vision. But it's all about these Molotovs that force these CTs into uncomfortable angles. Fired up still. Finds a frag. Dealt with. AK Abavi involved for 1, but only 1. Brace gets his 2 and makes it a 2v2.
And they've got a HE that can come through from CT. Is this going to go down?
It will go down over a default, so it evades where Brace is really planted for. PZ is the man that needs to do the heavy lifting. Bottom fragger of his team. Brace at 18 points of HP, though. PZ holds his nerve. Top of the boost. He's adjusted towards so quickly for Finn. And now it's all left to the last. M4 held back upon. Spray for the first, not the second. Finn keeps the trades running. And God's Reign takes map, match, and lower bracket point.
God's Reign are in such a prime position. Exactly the same scoreline of what occurred out in the last map of Anubis. That retake, searching, letting the AWPer clear out Dark, letting the contact only come through as 1, and then instantly Finn can peek on the contact. Barbie, a strong round from him. Helped out with Fired Up because he was very much out of position. He's blinded, he's being mollied, he's caught in the open. He still gets away with 1.
Four chances to close for God's Reign. 4 in a row. The Bad News Kangaroos need to make up now. Got the bomb plant of the previous round. Can sustain some sort of a buyback here. But it is very broken by comparison to the CT side. 2 Galils, 1 MAC-10. There are 2 AKs to work with. But Hazard and Brace may need to be the star men of this entire map and this entire team.
God's Reign just know that they've got them on the ropes. They've outperformed them in this map of Inferno. And now it's closing time. 3 players being brought to Banana early on. Revan looking for an opening pick.
Orpin sees nothing. Base of the second T-side player. And meanwhile, Hazard's going to make his way up to the bracket's entrance. Smoke does get in the way. As Finn will back away from aggressive contact, they'll walk their way up towards long. 2 players get on the rotations of the God's Reign camp. Barbie, Incendiary ahead of that smoke, will try blocking from direct site access. They're sandwiched here by further utility of the CT side. They've established their map presence, but this is just a lurk here.
Yeah, they're just stuck. They can't work off of the back of it. Hazard for a moment. Look to peer in from Archers. There's a player down on the other side. M4 from R2B2.
Timing is everything. Check that corner damage being done to Brace. Hazza needs to step up right here. He does find his man. Look back towards Wine. Spray through to 2. And now Revan is being pressured. Damaged up at his AWP. Brace caught Finn over on the A site exit. Matt 10 jumps round the corner. And bad news, Kangaroos. This is a lot more like it.
And that's what you want to see from your veteran player. The most experienced player here on this bad news Kangaroos roster is pure impact. Working that multi-frag, working that crossfire in from the archers and out from the rotational library. Fired up, can hold on to an M4, bring it in. Survival now for the Australians for at least one more round.
Number 9. First out of 4 to overtime. God's Reign needs to hold on to this M4 for fired up. The Kangaroos have worked a lifeline. How far can they carry it?
Well, there's not going to be a huge amount being invested here in round 22, so we've got to be realistic with ourselves and say that it should be a low limited buy, but I've already seen an upgraded M4. So this is the decision that God's Reign's going to do. They're going to invest heavy in round 22, and if they don't win it, they can invest heavy again in round 24. But they don't opt with the safer approach. This is where you've got to get a lot out of your 2 rifled players.
Imagine they break it right here. Look at the insertion from Revan. The T's have no idea. Back to turn. Smokes are in the way. Barbie with 1. Revan's caught Addict as well. Oh no. This is where disaster will strike. Hazza is forced to trade back to a 3-on-3, but look at his HP.
Out there to the apartments, Finn is hoping that they continue that aggressive approach. Look to try and work in. But bad news Kangaroos have got to be wary about some of these small avenues of, was it just 1 player aggressive in mid? Could it have been 2?
Back to passiveness for the T side, forced to hold on to their position. One back, regrouping with Hazard. Leave PZ and his AWP in mid. 60 seconds to the clock for the Kangaroos to recover this situation.
They've got a molly out from PZ out there to the bottom of Banana, so that at least takes some territory away. You got to start working info, got to start working contact out to the apartments.
Finn is so ready for this. Contact held against the T side line. They hold their nature. Smokes come down as PZ tries to make some noise of his own right. Setting up utility to force that rotation. If they can deal with Finn here, then perhaps they do force their way out. But has a low HP peeked in. Second player known about. Smoke down deep over at the B bomb site. It doesn't call in any rotations. God's Reign continue to hold that A bomb site, or do they? Rotations are called in as they on both sides here. Wombat now joins, 16 seconds to the clock, and R2B2 knows all he's got to do is mow them down, covering fire to stall for time. Smoke's in the way, Plant will try to be secured. Spray back on the first, adjustments right there, and God's Reign make it happen for 13-9, a 2-1 series that sends them to the grand finals of the Grand Slam.
History in the making. The Indian squad of God's Reign have done it once more. Another grand final appearance in a Skyesports event, and against international competition, against a more experienced side than them. That has got to be the best feeling of the day.
To think that they started from such a low point in this best of 3, 13-1 out by the Aussies on Nuke, but couldn't mount up to them, against them on that Anubis, couldn't mount up on Inferno either. Perhaps there were some bigger concerns because they lit it up on server and they really brought the thunder in this final best of 3 of the lower bracket. What a result.
It's going to mean so much to them to be able to actually put it as a marker that you've beaten an international team. They had to work hard for it. There's no denying that. These were 2 very competitive maps back to back, but it's the result that counts. It's the 2-1 victory. And for God's Reign, we're in discussion, right, that you're bringing in a new in-game leader, a new AWPer, and Jay, they've done everything. They've made that change and they've come out with a victory. They're in the grand final once more.
Honestly, man, I can't praise them high enough. To be in that situation that they were, to return as much as they did, the Kangaroos must be feeling very disappointed in themselves because they really were coming into this one as the favourites. They had the better matchup against Aurora. They were the ones that nearly beat them out, the only team that managed to do that in this tournament so far. And that just like, that whole situation, that whole confidence felt like it capitulated after map 1, unfortunately.
And for the Bad News Kangaroos, this will be looked at as a disappointment. This is a team that did so much, but the Indian squad did even more. God's Reign will get the victory. Let the host have to say about it.
For God's Reign! Well, इससे बढ़िया ग्रैंड फाइनल तो हो नहीं सकता है. इंडियन रिप्रेजेंटेटिव और इसी के साथ साथ ऑरोरा जिन्होंने सबके ऊपर डोमिनेट किया है. बट उस मैच में जाने से पहले भी है ना, तो वी हैव अनदर शो मैच लाइंड अप फॉर यू गाइस जो थोड़ी देर बाद होगा. बट फॉर नाउ आई वुड रिक्वेस्ट द IGL ऑफ बैड न्यूज कैंगरूज, ब्रेस, इफ यू कुड क्विकली प्लीज कम अप. ब्रेस, प्लीज कम अप हियर. I mean, tremendous efforts यार, लास्ट सेकंड तक भी हार नहीं माना. That was just crazy. So Brace, I have to ask you, what went wrong in Inferno?
I don't know. I think a lot of things went wrong. Yeah, they played good. Like, yeah, like they play pretty good, and I think their IGL, like, he does a lot with the players he has. Like, I respect like that guy a lot. So, yeah.
Now, another question which I have for you, then I'm going to let you go. So, we saw map 1. It was utter domination. You guys dominated like crazy. But in map 2, things went south. And did you think for a second that, yeah, we're going to lose it and we might have to play the decider?
Not really. Like, I don't know. I think we just struggle sometimes when we play less scripted. Like, when we just have an off day. Like, compared some days when we're defaulting, we get a lot of kills and we punish a lot. And then some days we just get fucking farmed. So, yeah, I don't know. I didn't think we were going to lose until the end, even when we hit 12 and we had like a deagle by. Like, you still got to believe, but yeah.
All right, thank you so much, man. And, you know, really well played, of course. We'll see you again real soon in another tournament, hopefully. But with that being said, ek aur baar, zordar talia. And please, put your hands together once again for Bad News Kangaroos. But I know that it's time to also call the winners for an interview, right? So I'm thinking, whom should I call? I've spoken to Bhavi, I've spoken to Raven. Now Bhavi keeps telling me that we want Raven. No, I'm going to call up Bhavi. Bhavi, please come up, the IGL of God's Reign. Can we have a huge round of applause for the Indian representatives? Bhavi, many people are watching. Too many people are watching. You see, the crowd is all here, and we know they are here to support God's Reign. But I have to ask you, कि पहला मैच जब आप लोग हारे, when you lost the first game, did you think for a second, bro, it's happening again? कल जो हुआ आज वापस हो रहा है.
Yeah, that come up in mind as well. But you know, we had a team talk. We talk to each other. We motivate each other, and we move on. We can't stick to the last map. If we did that, then we can't come back. So.
Now, we all know that you are the IGL on stage. मैं पीछे अभी backstage में था, मैं देख रहा था Raven was, you know, giving out calls and all. So, does Raven act as the filter in game and also backstage जाके is he the actual IGL of the team? मतलब पीछे जाके motivation देना हो या फिर कुछ भी discussion करना हो, he takes charge. मैंने वो देखा है.
Yeah, Raven is the guy who hypes his team a lot. He motivates us. He's also a funny guy. So, yeah, it's good to play with him.
Well, the next match is against Aurora, and Aurora से कल आप लोग 2-0 आपका defeat हुआ था वहाँ पे. So, what plans do you have?
I can't promise anything, but I'm sure that we're gonna play better than yesterday.
Okay, so do you think yesterday's loss was just maybe you know, a bad day, and today you might dominate over Aurora if it comes to that?
Not a bad day. We actually played some quite bad CS, so I think we stepped up today individually. But let's see what happens in the next game.
Well, I can say wish you all the best, and thank you so much. And we have to wait. I mean, we have to wait, right? This game, it will take some time, the grand finals, and this will be an iconic one. Because on one hand, we have God's Reign, who've already played one game, one full match. I mean, 3 maps played, exhaustion. It's going to be at its peak, but challenges, they have to be encountered. Challenges have to be overcome, and then you become the champions. Who's going to be the champions? Neither do I know, nor do the players know. But of course, our casters are waiting, who will bring you down into minute details what we witnessed in the previous game. So, casters, please take it away.
Thank you, man. Yes, we will break some more details down as to how that whole thing went about because, look, I think there's a lot of investigations to look into how God's Reign did as well as they did, particularly for the Aurora side, because if the confidence still keeps on, right, if they continue to try and battle up here and bounce back from the deficits that they were given against the Kangaroos side, then, I mean, look, Aurora will need to not take them, not like underestimate them, right? They don't need to sleep on this God's Reign side because it's still a victory. They are still the favorites. But God's Reign, again, we talk about mentality so much. They must be feeling so confident now.
Yeah, they'll feel as if going into this final, they have a chance, right? Now, I know that Barbie was being very select with the words because you have to be. You're going up against Aurora. Now, for Aurora, this is their first grand final at an international land. There's no way they're going to be underestimating their opposition, but they also know to themselves, we need to go out there and we need to play with guts because that's what we've done in our opening couple of games, and that's how they've been slapping competition around.
And they play with guts, of course, on the God's Reign side. Still, Hazard takes MVP of the final map of that best of 3. 21 kills dropped overall there. And it is a bit disappointing that we didn't see more from the likes of Addict, who didn't really get involved there in that last matchup. They wasn't really able to find the star potential that we hoped out of him so much since he set the bar so high on the first day. And maybe that level of inconsistency of the individual players may be something to think about for Bandit's Kangaroos going forward.
Yeah, it's going to be heartbreaking. Again, this is a team that the core 3's been together for 18 months. The core 4's been together for over a year. Yes, you're coming into this event as a stand-in, but it's not good enough. When you're one of those teams in the region that's looking to try and challenge the likes of Greyhound, you're getting closer to that position and saying, okay, we're going to take a few spots off you. We're going to get into EPL. We're going to go out here to India. You got to take your moments. And this does feel as if it's a very hard defeat. They should be beating God's Reign, but it shows, Jay, that not everything is on paper.
Indeed, it's not. And I mean, look, you talk about the standing situation. Remember, God's Reign coming in with 3 relatively new players into the roster, right? They've had a lot less time to formulate many more changes within this squad. So the idea that they have to sort of focus on formations of their own, right? Like, I don't know if necessarily the standing situation is going to be, I don't want to say excuse per se, but like it's not going to be as staunch of a factor by comparison to a squad like God's Reign. What you can say for them is that they found more talent within this roster. We've talked about R2B2, we've talked about Revin, we've talked about Finn, fired up in my eyes, MVP of the best of 3.
I agree. 100% I agree. I didn't see a lot from him in that series against Aurora, and I thought he was underwhelming, but that was not the case here in the consolidation final. He stepped up when required. He had some really impactful rounds, and you have to look at map 2 and map 3 because those are the ones that they won. You have to look at those 2 maps and say those were difference makers, and his consistency, I mean, he was able to get, 19 kills on that last map of Inferno, and then out on Anubis, he's able to get 22. So you got 22, 19. Mate, that's a very good average for 2-1 maps in the best of 3.
Yeah, sick stuff from him individually, and he was a massive element as to why God's Reign were able to turn it around from the disaster start in the best of 3 itself. So congratulations to them, but the fights don't stop. Again, they're taking on Aurora, the big dog that have yet to lose a single map in this tournament, have yet to lose a single series, as you would have expected. They are the squad of the international basis that everyone is going to try and beat, and for God's Reign now is taking this next little break between the 2 series, is trying to come up with a game plan, trying to figure out how they can utilize that firepower in the best way possible against the best team in the tournament.
I mean, there's no denying that it is going to be a rough best of 3. It is going to be so tough for them to even win a map. But being able to win a best of 3 gives you a lot of confidence. And they've played them before. They've at least got a vibe of what they can expect. It's going to be hard, though. Aurora are one of these teams where oftentimes we see online, they get stronger as they go into the deeper runs. So when we've already seen online, they haven't really been tested at all. It makes you wonder in a grand final, can they even be tested in this finale?
Oh, Kenzie, you saw him out on the stage a moment ago doing some research. I'm going to put that down as what he was doing. I certainly believe that Aurora coming into this one, into the grand finals, as the key favourites. I don't think anyone would really doubt that in that respect. I don't think God's Reign would look at that and think that they're coming in as the team to beat in that matchup. Their lower bracket squad versus a team that absolutely smashed them in the upper bracket finals, including a 13-0 at one point for Aurora. But the fire that they played with today, God's Reign have got a little bit of hope to just try and, again, as they say, hit their goals. Do better than they did in yesterday's showings.
And that doesn't mean win a map. That doesn't mean win a series. No. That just literally means keep the game competitive. If they can come out and at least show some competitive gun rounds, if they can show that they can threaten the likes of Aurora, that's a success in my books. This is already history being made. An Indian team on land beating International competition, history's already been made. Go into that grand final, have some fun. Try and see again if you can just keep that series competitive.
Yeah, no more pressure on them in my eyes, and I think that's going to be a positive for the mentality of God's Reign. It's going to be a positive for them as a team, the idea that you've hit your goals, and now it's a case of just go that little bit further. Try see how far you can take this kind of a tournament for them. Obviously, it is the winners match in the grand final that's coming up a little bit later on today. For now, however, we do have the Lunar Show match, which is the female CS show match that will be taking place, a single map to show off the ladies of the Indian scene now before we get to that grand final. So we're going to send you over to a short break, and when we come back, it will be up for that Lunar Show match, and then, of course, the grand finals later on today, so do not go anywhere. Plenty more CS action on the final day of the Skyesports Grand Slam.
It feels good, man. It feels good, right? Alright, yo. Dive right in, let's go. Do more than dip in your toes. Let the rhythm take control. Let's go.
Incisive pass. Vinicius Junior. And on to Bellingham.
Red Bull gives you wings.
Mama said you're meant to burn as bright as a star among the midnight sky. All the pressure blinded me, but now I see I'm no different from the rest. You said